Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the final day of the first test here on the F1 Word. We're live all day once again. Hope you're all well wherever you are in the world. Apologies for being literally a minute late. I'm just having one of those mornings. It's only a minute though, so it's all okay. Once again, as usual, I'll do the YouTuber spiel at the start. No live footage in this, obviously, so we've got the live timing from gptoday.net. Thank you very much to those guys for that this week. Links in the description to their site. They'll be with me again next week when we're live Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Got Jonty and Jess with me all morning. Then we've got Aldas this afternoon, 1:30 until 5. So it should be good fun today. Looking forward to this one. Lot of waffle. But there we go. Yes, it'll be fine. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Drop a like on the stream as well. And of course, you can contribute towards that total at the top. Not you, Jack, if you're here. I don't know if you're up yet, but pack it in sending me stupid amounts of money. Long story. We'll get into that later, I'm sure. Links in the description to PayPal, to Streamlabs, and all of that jazz down there. So there we go. Yes, interesting stuff yesterday. Loads to talk about. I've been doing my research. I've been learning things. Last night I was watching a bit of Mark Priestley and doing loads of reading on this whole DAS thing. So hopefully I'm fully informed and will still probably completely cock it up. But let's kick things off with yesterday's times. Kimi Räikkönen was the fastest in the Alfa Romeo. Bit of a surprise there, I think it's fair to say, but it is only testing. 1:17.0 for him. His time was set on the C5 compound, so the softest available, 134 laps. Sergio Perez was second in the pink Mercedes. C3 for him, 1:17.3, 1:45 in terms of laps. Daniel Ricciardo, 1:17.7 in third place, 41 laps for him on the C3 tyre. Albon, 1:17.9 on the C2, 134 laps. Gasly, C2, 1:18.1 on 147 laps. Vettel in the Ferrari, 1:18.1. He did get in the car yesterday, C4 tyres and 73 laps. George Russell, 1:18.2, 116 laps to C3 tyre. And then we've got Charles Leclerc on the C3 compound as well, 1:18.3, 49 laps. Lewis Hamilton on the C1, a 1:18.3. Running the C1, that's sandbagging. 106 laps. Norris, C3, 1:18.4, 137 laps. Grosjean, C3, 1:18.4 on 158 laps. 52 laps for Esteban Ocon on a 1:18.5 on the C2. And then 77 laps for Valtteri Bottas on the C2 with a 1:19.307. Notable headlines from yesterday, aside from DAS and all of that. Valtteri Bottas had an electrical issue, which meant he had to sit out the latter stages of the session. But I think every team except Renault going over 100 laps again yesterday. So pretty impressive stuff. But Renault apparently problems with Daniel Ricciardo's floor. So there we go. That explains that one. Currently this morning, Max Verstappen is fastest on a 1:18.0 with 10 laps. Sainz a 1:18.6 on 11 laps. Ocon 1:19.2 on 13 laps. Stroll 1:19.8 on 11 laps. Vettel's done 11 laps. So's Kvyat. It's a 1:26.2 for Vettel. And Danny's done a 1:36.2. No time for Latifi, Grosjean, Giovinazzi or Bottas as yet. But laps, 1 lap for Bottas, 2 for Gio, 2 for Grosjean, 7 for Latifi. Apologies as well, I haven't got the lineup at the bottom of the screen because, well, yeah, it's just been one of those mornings. But this morning we've got Bottas in for Mercedes. Vettel is in all day for Ferrari. Max Verstappen in this morning for Red Bull with Alex Albon in the afternoon. McLaren have got I've got Lando Norris, apparently it says this morning on here, but it's not, is it? It's Carlos Sainz this morning, and obviously Lando Norris this afternoon. Esteban Ocon this morning for Renault. Danny Kvyat, we already know, of course, and then Pierre Gasly in for the afternoon. Lance Stroll, Giovinazzi both in all day. Haas splitting as well. Grosjean this morning and Magnussen this afternoon. And Williams have got Nicholas Latifi in the car. Bloody hell, what a start. That's a lot of numbers to go through, isn't it, to kick off this stream. It's been a good week. I'm enjoying this very much. Thank you very much to Liam Ward. Thank you, mate, for your contribution there. That takes over 300. Awesome stuff. We're only 3 days in. Brilliant. Thank you very much, mate. Thanks for all your support, as usual. But I'm going to bring in, or this is the plan. This is the plan. We're going to bring in some guests. I'm hoping this works. Nothing else is working this morning. But I've got Jonty with me again. I'll be gentle. Morning, mate. You all right?
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, we've already had things kicking off this morning. Latifi's been throwing it sideways around the second sector.
A little bit quiet there, mate. Just turn you up a little bit. Yeah. I've not seen much. I've got to be honest. I've been shocking today, but looking forward to some DAS talk. It should be fun. I'm not even joking. I put it on the Discord server last night. Mercedes blew my mind yesterday. I think they did for both of us, to be fair, didn't they, mate? We were both like, what the hell?
It's been the same for everyone, I think, because there's still no agreement with all of the tech people over on Twitter on which it's actually doing. So that's going to carry on all day, I think.
Oh yeah, and we'll do our speculation in a bit. And also, it's great to have her on. She's a mod in the chat. What else does she do? She does commentary over on League Racing. I think still doing AOR. She's a radio host. I found out she's now the voice of my Saturday mornings. Good morning, Jess. Great to have you with us.
Morning, Sean. Morning, everybody. I'm really excited. There's been so much action already these past few days, and I can't wait to see what this morning brings, if there's any more controversy or if there's any other talking points going on. And yeah.
It's gonna be good. I think we've got a tasty day. A lot of controversy going on, as Jonty's touched on in the pit lane. People talking about you've got Red Bull saying this system's illegal. Ferrari are being relatively coy with it. Their usual, well, it could be legal. It might not be. We'll see. But I love all this politics, Jess. I've got to be honest, which is fantastic. So quite a lot to go over, really. But I don't know where to start. I'll tell you where we'll start. I'll put some pictures on screen. That's terrible, Sean. Come on, wake up. This is unacceptable. But where do you want to start, Jonty? Should we start with DAS, or is it a bit too early for going too technical?
No, it depends if everyone's brain's ready for it yet.
Well, I just want to show off that I actually read something yesterday.
Read?
I can read. I know, it's amazing. I was watching Mark Priest's video. If you've not seen it and you want a very simple and to the point explanation, I highly recommend it, because even I understood it, and that's saying something. But it's all to do with toe in and toe out. So toe out, and jump in if I'm ever wrong on this, but toe out is that your front two wheels are pointing outwards. Nothing extreme. We're not talking like something from wacky races where they're all at 90 degrees or anything like that. They're just pointing out a little bit. That is to help with stability through the corners. Listen at me. That is to help with stability through the corners and turning and all of that business. What Mercedes are doing, because the negative of that is that the tyres are scrubbing, and therefore that can cause overheating on the inside, and obviously that could lead to blistering. So what Mercedes are doing is they're straightening those wheels on the straight by simply pulling back the steering wheel, which brings them parallel, or possibly, Gary Anderson was saying this morning, possibly even a little bit of toe in. Depending, it might be parallel, but it might be a bit of toe in as well, which then prevents them from scrubbing, which helps with the tyre life and stops overheating. And then they push the steering wheel back, which puts the toe out back into place so that it's still stable through the corner. There you go. Any other technical explanations this morning? Anybody want anything else? I'm a genius now. But yes, that's basically pretty much layman's terms. I think, Jonty, isn't it? It's like I say, if I understood it, then that's the simplest way to go about explaining it. There are loads of other reasons, though. But actually, like you say, you've got Mark Priestley saying it's to help with tyre wear and tyre temperature, and I think Gary Anderson said the same. But then you've got other people saying that it could be other things. Don't think anybody's totally sure, apart from Mercedes.
Well, that's exactly my point. Mark Priestley's convinced it's for mainly getting the wheels straight on the straights, so that you don't have that scrubbing, to help a little bit with the aero, maintain steady tyre temperatures. But Craig Scarborough seems convinced that it's for pulling them with a little toe in to heat the tyres for preparation in the corners, because you lose a lot of tyre temperature on the straights, and I'm really not sure which of those is the most beneficial.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit contradictory at times, because I thought that it would benefit the tyres, because obviously with the toe out, then you're gonna have much more tyre temperature, and the tyre wear is gonna be a bit of an issue as well. And but there was some issue there. Oh, I was watching a video this morning because I was an idiot and I forgot to watch it last night. But I have done it. But I think what Mark was saying, that it is fine due to the fact that it's not down to the aero as such. It is kind of, but it's not the primary function. I think that's probably what he was saying, because I think there was a few speculation from the teams that way. But I think what Mercedes thought of, I think it's a generally good idea if it's legal. Obviously, FIA probably approved it. So yeah, I think the teams are going to have a wake up call, I think. So yeah.
It kind of depends who you listen to, because some people are saying we could be looking at it giving them a few thousand. Some are saying hundreds, but I think the general consensus seems to be that if this is legal, which we're assuming it is. The FIA apparently have cleared it. I'll read a quote from them in a moment. But if it's legal, then it's not. It's something they've got which is going to help them, but it's not going to be something that they rock up to Australia with and destroy the field with. So Bottas really sideways out there. It must be a bit cold out there or something. He's on some hard tyres though, sliding all over the place. We're just doing a replay of Grosjean's crash from yesterday. But yeah, I think the big question is what it's doing, and I think the general consensus seems to be the only people that know are Mercedes. As Annette said in chat, they're not going to come out and tell us. But I've got to say, we'll do tinfoil hats properly, but I do find it quite odd that a team are very happy to show this off on the second day. Not only that, are also happy to sit in a press conference and explain things about it. And it's got me looking at the car for other things I might spot that are completely illegal that nobody else has picked up on. I think maybe some distraction tactics going on there. But the FIA apparently have cleared it. A spokesperson told racefans.net, let's find the quote. With the steering wheel fixed, the position of each wheel centre and the orientation of its rotation axes must be completely and uniquely defined by a function of its principally vertical suspension travel, save only for the effects of reasonable compliance, which does not intentionally provide further degrees of freedom. I hope you've had your coffee, because this makes no sense to me. Any power device which is capable of altering the configuration or affecting the performance of any part of any suspension system is forbidden, and that no adjustment may be made to any suspension system whilst the car is in motion. Now, Mark Preece said yesterday, John T, in that video, that what we were saying yesterday about grey areas, that Mercedes are probably going to argue that it's not a suspension thing because they are just effectively moving the track rod, so it's more about steering rather than the full suspension. That is going to be their argument. It's also not software because the driver is manually activating it, so it's a mechanical thing rather than anything else. So by the regulations, it is, by the wording of the regulations, it is legal. The FIA are saying they've cleared it, or are at least monitoring the situation. Mercedes have said the FIA have known for a long time. Sebastian Vettel's saying they wouldn't be running it if it was illegal. So the assumption is that this is a legal part, but Mr. Helmut Marko, who of course we know is never outspoken, he disagrees. He thinks this is totally illegal.
Yeah, the point that Mark Priestley raised was the fact that the rules around the steering mechanisms are kind of loose. They don't really say a great deal about what you can and can't do with steering. The only one that's sort of really specified is that any steering system can only affect 2 wheels. That's the biggest thing. So it outlaws 4-wheel steering, which various teams have tried in the past. I'm not sure if anyone actually raced with it, but some people did do a lot of testing with it. I know Ferrari did, sort of, because during Schumacher's years, Ferrari basically had 5 years in a row where they could just do testing for the second half of the year. That's the thing, but there's nothing in the rules that say that the steering affected wheels have to go in the same direction. So in this instance, DAS is only affecting 2 wheels. Yes, they're pointing towards each other, but it's still only affecting 2 wheels.
That's it, isn't it? This is what I mean by grey areas. They're going to get away with it on that front. But like I say, the general feeling is, as we've watched Bottas playing with it, the general feeling is from the experts over on Twitter, the actual experts, not the ones that think they are, the actual experts, this is a few hundredths maybe maximum, probably more like a few thousandths of a second, probably more to do with the tyre wear than it is the actual time gain. But if this arrives in Australia and they gain 2 thousandths a lap, I think Ferrari and Red Bull will end up with it on the car by the end of the year. I don't think the midfield will bother. But and it'll probably be allowed to stay for 2021, but if they turn up to Australia and it is something that gives them a huge advantage, guarantee you it's gone for 21. I can guarantee you that will get banned because they don't want that. They don't want that huge advantage for anybody. But I did think actually, and I don't know how realistic this is, I don't know what it's going to do for tyre wear, but let's assume it really does help them out on that front. And pure speculation, of course, they managed to go an extra lap or 2 in a race because of their tyre wear advantage in that respect and what it's helping them out with. That's gaining them more than a few hundredths or a few thousandths, isn't it? So I can't see, honestly, John T, that little bit of a change is going to result in a massive difference in anything. The more I look at it, it's really cool to watch, but I can't see that's going to make a huge difference in lap time or tyre wear, really. Not that we're going to notice as armchair fans.
I think you'd be surprised. Certainly, from what was people suggested about quali lap, they can get that extra heat into the first couple of corners. Certain tracks that could make a massive difference. It really could. I think that's some places where getting those first couple of corners is absolutely critical. Well, Silverstone springs to mind straight away. And in fact, the whole of the lap for Silverstone. Got to think there's quite a few places where you've got a long straight with critical corners straight after them. That could be a couple of tenths.
I could see Austria springing to mind as well, because I think I remember Mercedes having a few issues with the cooling in a few tracks as well. It could not just affect quali, it could just affect the race as well, because like Red Bull won in Austria, and I think there was a few tracks where Mercedes didn't win, and that was due to the fact that the cooling wasn't the best, and due to the fact they couldn't get either the tyres were too cold or the tyres were too hot. Mainly due to the fact the tyres were too hot. But yeah, I think what Mercedes are doing is probably going to affect mainly in the race as well, personally.
Yeah, Austria's a good shout, and people in the chat saying Baku as well.
So I just watched Bottas get sideways out of 5.
Yeah. Straight runs, critical corner. Straight run, critical corner. That's the whole of Baku.
That's true. I guess it's fine margins, isn't it, in Formula One? So it might make a big difference. But Billy Clark, was it Billy Clark? Have I just completely ruined your name? It's probably like John Clark. No, Billy Clark. First of all, thank you for becoming a new member. Massively appreciate that. That's awesome, mate. I will sort memberships out. I promise. That is something I'm going to do before Australia. I also know that I said that after Hungary last year. So I will work on it. But Billy was saying, would anybody want this banned if it was on any car other than a Mercedes? From my personal point of view, I don't want it banned because I love innovation. And like Mark Priestley again was saying last night, and I said it yesterday in the stream, it's been a long time since we've seen something this clever on these cars because of the restrictions in the rules. So I don't personally want it banned, but make no mistake, if this was on a Williams, nobody would give a damn.
Yeah, the lower teams will probably just get away with it because they're low down anyway. But like, I think there was an issue with McLaren and Braun as well. Braun with a diffuser, and I think that was banned afterwards. But I just don't get why the teams are so hot up about it at the moment, to be fair. But if it gives them too much of an advantage, I doubt that will be there in 2021. But I want it to see it there. Mercedes is good with innovation, and if it gives them an advantage, then there goes their 7th constructors title, and maybe their 7th world title with Lewis. I don't know, but yeah.
Ned just made a good point in the chat saying after a safety car as well. I think it could be highly amusing if we
safety cars are awful.
If we see some onboards, you've got everyone weaving side to side apart from the Mercedes who are there manically pumping the steering wheel in and out.
I don't know how far you guys are behind on the live stream on TV, but I noticed this yesterday on both the Mercs. If you look on the right of the cockpit to Bottas, he's got some duct tape there, or what looks like duct tape, and it looks as though there's something under it. It might just be a sensor, but I spotted it yesterday on the other side of the car. I'm just intrigued as to what that might be. I'm trying to have a look now, but I imagine that would just be some kind of sensor because it's testing. But you've got this beautiful innovation we're talking about, and then they've stuck some on with a bit of duct tape. That's the two ends of Formula One right there. I love it.
Oh yeah, it's on the right hand side. I see it. I think I'm way behind on on the stream, but never mind. Yeah, I don't know. Was there something wrong with the electrical system yesterday?
True,
Bottas had to end the session early, so maybe they want to monitor that and see if the hydraulics are still working all right.
He's just doing a practice start now. It's very nice start as well. That's a very slick car. He was using that DAS out of turn 5 yesterday, which was quite interesting. Lewis looked like it was predominantly on the straight, but Valtteri was quite happy to use it in turn 5. But people talking about safety, we went over this briefly yesterday. I don't think it's a safety issue. The drivers were perfectly happy to take the hand off the steering wheel for the F duct, so they're not really bothered about pulling it back. But I've got a moan, and I'm jumping to his defence again. And I know, again, as we said yesterday, it's only a snapshot of the F1 fan base. It's not the fan base as a whole. But Autosport put an article out, I think, was it this morning or very late last night, with Sebastian Vettel saying that driving using the DAS would be effectively like running in flip-flops, and people are just absolutely tearing him apart. They've read the headline and not read the article. Seb is not saying, he's not attacking Mercedes for it. He's not saying anything like that. He's just saying that it just looks weird, effectively, from a driver's perspective, that instead of turning the steering wheel left and right, you're also pulling it forward and back. That guy just gets so much stick for nothing. Don't get me started. On all drivers, not just Seb, it really annoys me.
I'm just seeing that duct tape. Definitely looks like there's a cable underneath it. I wouldn't be surprised if that's just holding some external device for retrieving data.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Here's a theory. Or it's hiding whatever innovation they're trying to distract us from with the DAS.
Just watch it. Just watch it. There'll be a few tweets saying, "Oh, what's this duct tape doing? It is it illegal?"
Might just be a go faster stripe or something like that.
Yeah.
On board with Seb as he comes into the pits. That Ferrari livery, nicer this year, by the way. A little bit darker, not quite as orange, which is awesome stuff. But yeah. What else did I want to talk about today? Daniel Ricciardo. Just the quote from him yesterday about his flaw, because there's some concerns as to why Renault didn't get as much running done. Still some decent running. Said, today was okay for me. I felt good in the car and I'm pleased with the work we completed. We had a small delay in our running as there was some minor damage on the floor after I hit a curb at the exit of turn 9, and we had to check it over as precaution. We did complete enough running to provide some decent feedback for the team, so that's positive and a good base heading into tomorrow. So Daniel Ricciardo happy with Renault. I think... sure he said, I don't know if it was said that in that quote, but I'm sure he said as well that he's content that Renault are ahead of where they were last year at this point. So, but then I suppose that's an obvious statement, isn't it? If you're worse than you were at this point last year, then you're having a crap season. You've not had a good winter.
Yeah, I mean, Renault were awful last year overall. We've got to be honest. They really did struggle. And it's the weirdest thing, that bloody cheating braking system. They were genuinely faster after it was gone. Still don't get that.
I'm still surprised that they kept their championship position over all that. Because
they were fifth, weren't they?
Yeah, but I think after all that cheating stuff and whatnot, and this clever system they had in the car, you know, nobody could absolutely categorically say when it was on the car and when it wasn't, and they only threw them out of one race. I'm not saying I wanted them to be thrown out. I'm just looking at, you know, historically what the FIA tend to do with that kind of thing. I'm surprised they weren't thrown out the championship for that. When I read everything on it, I thought, well, they're just going to get thrown out for the season.
This kind of reminded me of when McLaren got disqualified for 1 year due to the issues that they've had or something like that. I think the only good result Renault had was, I think, Italy. I think they had a good result there, but apart from
Canada
that,
as well.
Oh, they did in Canada as well. Yeah.
Ding ding. All right, who had under half an hour before Spygate's mentioned?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Come on, Jess. But yeah, it's Jack Chambers in chat. Oh, lovely.
Yes, he is.
How you feeling this morning, mate?
Oh, God, Jack.
A little bit lighter in the pocket. I'm off to Mexico. I will update that latest scrolling tab in a minute. I'll try and ask a difficult question to somebody so they chat for a minute. But I will pop something in there. And I was going to put a little ticker up of like days since Jack last did something stupid and have it at 0 for the day. But yes, I don't know if he minds me sharing, so I'll let him tell me if I can or can't. But it is quite amusing, and I still don't have the option, mate, to reject it. So, I say that.
Just picking up a point, Christoph 5782 in the chat said, considering Grosjean and Palmer have said they've used similar systems, are you going to DQ Lotus Renault from multiple seasons for it? And it is a very difficult question.
Did they?
By rights, Renault should have had all their points stripped from the year. You know, if they got told that's illegal, get rid of it. Surely, when they've been using it, all the points they've had should have gone. It's a case of how difficult is it to go back.
I don't.
Because we've seen it in other sports. I'm sure it was mentioned yesterday. You've got Lance Armstrong.
Yeah.
He had years and years of it stripped.
Was it with you yesterday morning? It might be Stuart or Dan on, but we were talking about Man City, for example, in football. With this whole thing with them, the financial fair play. There's talk they might lose one of their titles because they broke the rules that season, so that might go to Liverpool or whatever. And then I thought, well, if you're going to start removing titles like that, that seemingly innocuous WhatsApp message from a guy who was working on the Benetton back in the whole traction control days controversy, where he's basically turned around and said, "Yeah, there was traction control on that car." Do we then take that title away from Benetton and Michael Schumacher? If we start going back like that, people are just going to lose. That so much will change in history because of cheating and all sorts. And it's where do you stop? Do you know what I mean? Where how far back can you go?
Exactly. I feel like you have to have a cut-off. There's got to be a cut-off where it's a case of, well, you didn't spot it, unlucky. And I do feel like, just the calendar year is the obvious one for that. Or possibly the gala event when the title trophies actually get presented. Because that's like the last obvious point where there's nothing they can hold back. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
No, I tend to agree that the problem then is when we get to this cost cap rule, because they don't have to submit their accounts until March, and the FIA aren't going to know everything in a day, so they're going to take a little while to go through all of that. If somebody's found to have been cheating the season before, and they wouldn't, let's say Mercedes overspend stupidly the season before, and they warrant being thrown out the championship for that year, you're going to have to go back and take the 2021 title away from them or whatever, and then give it to somebody else after everything's already gone. And this is my problem with the policing of the cost cap, because it's kind of in the same thing as we're talking about there. How far back do you go? Can you take titles away? Well, you can, of course you can, but should you take titles away, or should it be that Mercedes are thrown out of that year's championship? But then, as was said the other day by, I think it was Stuart, if you then do that, a team like Williams could go out and spend an absolute fortune, develop a car, win the title, and then just take the penalty for a few years.
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got the whole logistics drama of it. Can you imagine how bad it would be for Mercedes if, for some reason, something was found illegal and they went back to the previous year and said, right, you're getting kicked from this. Can we have all those trophies back and send them to all the relevant people? Come on.
They're not going to give it. I mean, it's just too far back if they want to take away trophies that they've won a few years ago. That's it. If they haven't found out about the issues beforehand, then screw them. It's it's they work so hard and it's going to affect them. But if the cost cap is going to cause an issue, I just hope that they iron it out just before the season ends. So then, if any issues iron out, then they can sort it before the end of the season, and they won't have to give the trophies back.
See, I don't know what chat think and what you two think, but I'm still not convinced they can police this properly.
No, I don't think so. It's like I feel like, because I think you were discussing this yesterday. I feel like the big teams are still going to benefit from it because they're going to spend quite a lot this year, and then ready for next year.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. It's one of those things that's virtually impossible to police because they can be so very clever. Well, not very clever, very obvious and simple ways around it. And other teams can benefit. Imagine. Well, yeah, you got the whole Independence Day quote. You don't think they spend $20,000 on a toilet seat?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Well, no, you can imagine that Mercedes turn to Racing Point or Williams and say, look, we need to do a load of development work on this part of the engine. How about you do this development work and we'll just charge you a bit less for the engines? That way none of us have gone over the budget.
Oh.
And you've got things like, obviously not so much from a Red Bull AlphaTauri perspective, they're doing that for their young drivers and obviously with other things as well. But there's a reason why Mercedes all of a sudden are getting very close to Racing Point. Because although Racing Point are buying parts, it's not going to be massively financially beneficial to Mercedes, but send a couple of people over just before the cost cap comes in, and that front wing that Racing Point have developed, we really like that. I think we'll start using that. But no, we didn't spend any money. That was all their development.
And Annette in chats just said it's the auditing company Deloitte that are policing it, so that's not worth the paper it's printed on to begin with. I've dealt with them before, and they're utterly useless and corrupt themselves.
They are.
I
could see why Mercedes. Yeah, I could see why Mercedes want to help Racing Point, because due to the fact that they want to spend even more money, but it's probably going to get to a situation where Racing Point are above Mercedes, and they're going to stop paying. They're going to stop paying for their parts or something ridiculous as that.
I don't want to get onto Racing Point because I'll start again with a pink Mercedes.
Yeah. We've been talking about it like for 2 days now.
The same with Williams. I can't stop talking about Williams, and I'm trying to avoid it, but they're so good. But I've never heard of that company.
Unless you've been in situations of working for a company that's gone under, there's not really any reason for you to be involved with them unless you focus on the financial side of business. If you studied economics, you're not really going to come across them. But I did come across them because I used to work for Woolworths. And we had representatives in the store when we were closing down, and the guys we had there were so corrupt and dodgy with the way they dealt with things, and the whole going into receivership process was done so very dodgily. I mean, they'd known for six months, and Deloitte didn't allow for staff to be told until 6 weeks before Christmas.
That's a bit harsh. It's like when a team goes to administration, when do they get told, the staff, that the team is in financial trouble?
Exactly. So it was made a lot worse for them because lots of the staff decided they wanted some Christmas presents.
John.
That's when I miss Woolworths, Christmas. After doing Christmas shopping, way off Woolworths because you can get it all.
That's when I don't believe me. The toys used to start coming in June, and we would have Easter eggs in before Christmas had happened.
Well, when I was working at Aldi, and they'd be like, "Oh, we need to clear the warehouse," and this is like the 1st of September, and you're like, "Why?" "Oh, the Christmas stock is coming in." It's like, when's the Halloween stuff getting here? First week of October. Hang on. One thing at a time. Let's do Halloween and then we'll get the Christmas. But no. Oh, dear.
How did we get into that conversation?
You get used to it after a while, Jess.
Fair enough.
Testing streams.
It's somebody commented yesterday going, these really are all waffle, aren't they? It's like, well, I do warn you right at the start. I think somebody last year got a bit upset with me. He was like, "Oh, can you just commentate on what's going on track?" It's like, okay, cool. Max Verstappen's driving around slower than he normally would. That's basically all that's happening. I just like to go through the times and that. But yeah, on that note, actually, what's going on track? We'll talk about what we'll say. I'm going to tell you a story about Jack in a minute because I was laughing most of last night. I really was. I couldn't stop. Verstappen's still is fastest, 1:17.6 on 19 laps so far. Like I was saying all week, the column that matters really in testing is that right-hand one. The laps that they're doing, the times are pretty irrelevant. Bottas again. Mercedes not really sandbagging much at all. So I'm a bit concerned they're just going to come in and dominate. 17.9, 9 laps. Ocon's already done 24. Vettel's done 27 in 5th place there. They're sandwiching Sainz on 19 laps, 1:18.4. Lance Stroll's done 11, Giovinazzi 11, Grosjean 5, Kvyat's done 11, and Latifi has done 8 as well. So there we go. Good stuff. But yes, Jack. I'm going to embarrass him now. So if you were watching the stream yesterday, Jack kept sending me 1-penny donations on PayPal. I have no idea why, but he just felt like doing it. Unfortunately, because of the unique way that PayPal works, I didn't get any of that because they take a very, very tiny fee. And of course, they're not going to cut into 0.1 of a penny or anything like that. So I wasn't getting that. So I joked on stream and said that all donations from Jack have to start at a minimum of $3,000. You can see where this is going. I got a message from him and he goes, "Oh, check your PayPal." So I checked PayPal and there's a donation there from Jack for £3,000. And he's going, please reject that. Please send it back. It was only meant to be a joke. I have no option to reject it. So we now have to wait for it to clear, and he has to hope that I'm a really nice guy and that I send it back the other way. So Jack is quietly crapping himself and hoping that my evil doesn't kick in and I run away with his $3,000. And I keep saying move to Mexico, but I ain't moving to Mexico on $3,000, but I might just do it for the sake of it. So that's what was going on with Jackaboy yesterday.
Yeah, Jack, what did we say? Don't believe Sean. Don't you dare.
I did spend $2,500 at McDonald's last night though, so
Wow.
I didn't really. So yeah, Jack, we love you, mate, but you are a prat. I'm sorry.
I don't even have that kind of money in my bank account.
I think he said it's a deposit for a house, which makes it even more.
Oh, that's worse. That's dodgy.
But if anybody legitimately wants to send me $3,000, links in the description.
Yeah. Is it harsh to say I'm not really surprised?
I'm not surprised, to be honest, as well.
This is the guy who got drunk and overslept when the morning he was meant to be coming to meet us at Autosport.
Was that this year or last year?
This year. So when he turned up, his packing consisted of the boxes and socks that he grabbed on his way out the door.
Yeah, because you got out of the car and we got to the hotel, didn't you, with your backpack with all your stuff in. And Jack was like, I'll just grab my stuff. And he just walks into the hotel with his pants and his socks in his hand.
Oh, my God.
That's it.
Imagine what he's going to be like at Silverstone.
It was brilliant. Oh, dear.
Well, he'll probably end up like me at Reading at Silverstone because I went down to a music festival for 5 days without a tent. Assuming you could buy them there.
ST said Silverstone tickets for that cash, Sean. If somebody sends me $3,000, I will get Silverstone tickets. I'd buy them today. Absolutely. I'd probably try and find a way to get other people there as well. But yes, good stuff. Hey, the graphics are right today again. It's not Suzuka, it's Barcelona. Good news. That McLaren don't half look sexy on the track. I'm sorry. Apart from that black stuff on the flipping nose.
Language.
Oh, no. Massive apologies if anybody who doesn't like swearing is tuning in. That was me forgetting I'm live and just chatting. Verstappen's still fastest. Sykes coming to the pits. Apologies. Massive. Oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. It's me demonetized later, isn't it? But do you like the matte finish on the McLaren, John T? I know we talked about liveries earlier in the week, but I wasn't. I was kind of, it was all right, but out on track it does look bloody good.
Oh yeah, I do. I think the matte finish is just as much as I like Papaya, I have to. There was something that wasn't quite. I just didn't really get on with over the last couple of years. I think the matte finish just it gives it a better. I don't know. I can't think of the word I'm trying to get across. It just makes the shade of the colour a little bit better.
Was it Annette in chat that said it glows?
I think
Yeah,
a little bit. But can you remember? Was it last year or the year before? When they'd gone to this Papaya, and me and you were both kind of in agreement that we wanted them to drop the Papaya. You know, you've done the nostalgic thing now, let's go to a cool livery. Funnily enough now, I couldn't imagine it in any other colour. I like it.
Yeah, I think we'd all be a bit gutted if it went now.
It's one of my favourite liveries from McLaren due to the matte that they've had and the launch that they did. The launches that they were amazing. Well, this year's was pretty good as well. So they do mean business, McLaren, but, you know, I would put it joint with Haas, I think, in terms of my ranking of liveries anyway. I think when you see the cars on track, you appreciate the liveries more. That's what I think.
Oh, yeah, they always look better out on track. The Williams, a lot of people didn't like, and now a lot of people are saying it's really cool. I really like the Williams livery, but I just like cars. I was going to say, I like cars that stand out. So I like, back to the Jordan days when they were yellow. You knew that car. I'm not a big fan of the way they've done it this year with the Racing Point, but I like that it's pink because that's a Racing Point. Yet my favourite livery, which now makes me a hypocrite, is the AlphaTauri because it's plain and simple and clean. So there you go. I'm a hypocrite. What can I say? But yeah, I think, is there a bad livery out there? We haven't done bad liveries. There's boring liveries. The Alpha's not really. Alfa Romeo hasn't changed much, but I don't think there's a bad livery this year. The Williams, I was surprised, genuinely, Jess, by how many people in the comment section to my Williams video said they liked last year's livery. I hated it. Whereas this year, I don't think I got a bad one.
I wasn't a big fan last year. I was like, ugh, it looks disgusting. I was like, why Williams? And they came on the lawn. I wasn't expecting much on Monday morning, and then I was at work checking my Twitter, and I saw the Williams livery, and I was like, I'm actually genuinely surprised. This is genuinely really good. So,
Did you see on Twitter what Williams did yesterday?
No.
Because obviously their first day was a complete turnaround compared to last year. You know, loads of laps running well.
The laps.
And no, they obviously got loads and loads of positive messages from the fans on Instagram and Twitter and whatnot. So they printed them out, stuck them on the notice board in the garage for all the team to see. I thought, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it says, with us right in the heart of the garage, thank you for the whole team for all your support. And that's generally going to boost the team if they see all these positive comments. That's gonna help not just the drivers but the personnel as well.
I think McLaren are really good with their fans as well, aren't they? And I think Williams, the Brits are. I was going to say loyal 1 month after we left the EU. But yeah, let's not open that can of worms. But yeah, I think you sort of, when it comes to sporting stuff, Brits are quite loyal. So I think, they've stood by McLaren. I think Zach Brown was saying, and he loves the fans for that. And then you've got, I think the same with Williams. They get, for all the criticism they get and that you see they get, actually their fan base is very loyal and they want them to bounce back. But I think Williams have kind of, even if you hated Williams back in the day or anything like that, I mean, hate's a strong word, but that's a word people use now. But even if you didn't like them back in the day, I think a lot of people now see them after the last few years as a bit of a Minardi. So they've become the underdog now. And I think people really do genuinely root for them. And from what I've seen on social media, there's a lot more people saying, get in there, Williams. Come on, you can do this. We want to see you back up there fighting, as opposed to, you're still at the back, which is, like Jess is saying, that's got to be a boost to people, hasn't it? Like, at the factory, to see the positivity.
And there's people on Twitter that are like either McLaren fans, Ferrari fans, or even Mercedes fans that are wanting Williams to be up there with them, and that's just generally really positive. And I like underdog teams. I usually support underdog teams. I supported McLaren at the start because, you know what, I wanted them to go up from lower down and to higher up, and they finished 4th in the championship, and I still support them now. So I usually prefer underdog teams because they have sort of a journey into the seasons. They start off quite low into, like, say 2018 or 17, and then going into 2019-20 you see them doing better, and it's like, hang on, they can actually do well here. So yeah, and then someone saying the only way is up for Williams. I agree with that. So
thanks, Kelly, for the gif over on Twitter telling me off for the swearing. Apologies again.
Oh god, I just seen it. Is that from Tom and Jerry or something?
Yeah, Tom and Jerry, isn't it? Yeah. Or is it Jerry?
Or something. What? Are we really that old now, Sean?
Oh, I felt it yesterday. I was talking about, I think it was 97, and Jamie goes, I don't know, mate, I wasn't even born. I'll get in the bin. Do you know? I'm not having that. This is where Jess is like, I'm 9.
I was actually 2 in 97.
At least you were born. That's something. But yeah, it's. I don't know. I think we are getting old, Jonty. But you're as old as you feel, or whatever the saying is. I don't know. But yeah. I don't feel old. Like, this is going to turn into, like, I mean, we're in a care home now. I'll ring my bell in a minute. I want a cup of tea. But yeah, no, I don't feel old. He says, holding his hip. Sorry, I was having a drink of my cold tea, everyone's favourite drink. The tape is off Bottas's car, breaking news. In the pits he comes. So that was probably just a sensor or something. Maybe, like you say, Jess, checking something electrical perhaps. Could be a thing. But yeah, it's quite not a massively busy start to the morning. I was going to say quiet start to the morning, but it's a quiet start to the morning because I haven't put my headphones on to listen to the commentary on TV, so it will be quiet. There we go. It's been a good
The only
morning.
one that hasn't done a lap time is Latifi, but you're expecting that anyway because the last few days Williams didn't set a time until like an hour and 45 minutes into the session. So and they still put in good laps. So I'm not worried about them at the moment only doing setting no time. They're just taking their time and getting some good data, even if it's just going into the pits and then coming out again.
We were kind of Chris was saying this yesterday about Latifi and feels that he's going into the season, or it might be Jamie that said it, but quite underrated and people aren't expecting much from him. What do you think, Jess? Do you think Latifi might be a surprise this year, or do you think he is, with respect to him, of course, just there because of the money?
Well, originally I thought he was there because obviously of the dosh and the money, but now seeing his progress that he's done on the first day of testing, he was only like, I know it's only testing, you could take it with a pinch of salt, but he's actually not that bad due to his lap times. Looking at his stint runs, he's actually pretty good. And I was watching a bit of George Russell's interview in the commentary box, and he was saying even he's expecting Latifi to actually push him a lot more this year. And you want that in a team. You want a teammate that can push you harder because that will probably make you a better driver. So I think Latifi they'll probably still be bottom of the grid, but Latifi will probably be a surprise package, and you may expect Latifi might even beat Russell in qualifying. You never know. It probably won't be a whitewash 21-0 like last year. I think they're evenly matched, and Latifi's already gelled in the team. He's done a few free practice ones, so he's not completely new to the team. He's done more free practice ones than probably most other teams have done last year. So yeah, he's at an advantage already. He's a rookie, I know, but he's definitely got a lot of experience. He's had less pressure due to him being a reserve driver, and he's only like 23, but he's been in the sport for a long time. Just because you've been in F2 for 4 years, it doesn't mean you're a bad driver. Usually, if you're there for a long time, it might mean you learn a few more stuff. That's what I think. So I think I'm not going to judge Latifi just yet.
No,
I'm
I think
just
that's
going to wait.
fair.
So
As John McDonnell points out, Latifi is already rookie of the year.
good point, because he's the only rookie.
Oh, he is, isn't he? Yeah. Oh, that's one title wrapped up. Sweet. Done. Looks like the Drivers' Championship of the Constructors is probably going to be done as well, but yeah. Anyway, let's not write the season off before we get going. But I think I said yesterday with Latifi, we were discussing this about, you know, how long he'd been in F2 and has he been there for a reason? Is that why he's not been picked up? Is it just the money? But somebody just said it in chat, just because he's there because of the money doesn't mean he won't be good. Absolutely correct.
Good point. I agree with that.
But I think, I'm sure I worded it this way yesterday, something along the lines of basically just because... Yeah, I mean, effectively that on the money side, but I said something along the lines of just because he's been in F2 for a long time doesn't mean he won't be good. And just because you have skipped through F2 doesn't mean you will be good, if that makes sense. You just because it doesn't matter how long you've been in a junior series. Max Verstappen, I mean, he did a lot in karting, but next to sod all in the likes of, well, he didn't do F2 or GP2, did he, or GP3? He did the Euro F3, and then he was straight into Formula 1. So then you've got your Markelovs and your Latifis who are in F2 for a long time. It doesn't mean they're going to be rubbish because they've been in F2 for a long time. It also doesn't mean they're going to be brilliant. I'm hoping he does well. But then that's partly because I want to see both Williams boys do well, because I want to see them make their way up the grid a little bit. But I think he's got a tough task, Jonty, to beat George Russell this year, because he kind of, despite smashing Kubica in qualifying, he kind of slid under the radar a little bit, didn't he? Because he wasn't in a car like Norris was that was competitive, or like Albon, for example.
Yeah, this is going to be... He's certainly going to be better than Kubica was. But I do think Russell's going to have the edge on him. But there is going to be a lot of focus, because like we said, he's the only rookie on the grid. Is it going to be different focus to what Kubica had after coming back from the accident? It's hard to tell. Although someone did just point out, I can't see who it was, saying let's not call him out as rookie of the year just yet, because you never know what might happen. And if the Haas boys get together in Australia, by the second race we could have 2 more rookies on the grid. Because I've got a feeling if there's any more of that this year, Gundersteiner's going to have them hung, drawn, and quartered.
I think it's kind of funny that we're doing this while we're on board with Grosjean, who crashed yesterday, by the way. Didn't bring out the red flag, though. He managed to get back out again, which was cool. It was Kimi Räikkönen that brought out the red flag very late on yesterday. Nearly got through 2 days. But we kind of discussed it yesterday a bit about Rogro and is this his last season? But I kind of feel like he's an irrelevant discussion, Jonty. First of all, it's only testing, so it's a bit unfair to really start saying, is he going to leave before we've even seen if he's competitive or not this year? But it's also relevant because we've kind of had that conversation for the last 2 years about whether it's going to be Grosjean's final season, and he always seems to find himself in that car. But I've just got this horrible feeling that he'll have a pretty decent year and then get dropped, and we'll all be going, so when he was a bit pants, you kept him in the car, but when he actually performed, you got rid of him. He's a nice guy, is Rogro, isn't he? So it'd be nice to see him stay, but I do feel like he's filling that seat, and somebody could possibly, a bit younger, with a bit more of a future in F1, with a bit of talent, would be better off in that car. Just a personal thing. Same with Raikkonen now. I'm like, I love Kimi, but, come on, mate, move on, let somebody else have a go.
Well, you might be onto something there, because let's be honest, apart from the spin off, Grosjean was a machine yesterday, putting in the most laps, and he just kept going and going, and they were all nice and consistent, getting loads of important data for the team. Maybe it is going to be his year.
He was so unlucky last year. We have to give him that as well, don't we? He got tyre issues again and got caught up in things that weren't his. I think Russia towards the end of the year, he got whacked by Giovinazzi and Ricciardo after they'd had their incident. So he had a lot of bad luck last year, but he also didn't deliver when he had the luck. So I'll just have a look at his results from last year, actually. But he's one of those, a bit like we're saying about underdogs. He's one of those that I really kind of am rooting for this year. Don't tell Dan, I think he's in chat, but yeah, I am kind of rooting for him this year because I'd like to see him bounce back. I really would. But yeah, how did he do? I've forgotten 2019 already. It is in the past. What did he do points wise? 8 points. Scored points at 3 races. Retired from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it just wasn't. I mean, that Haas was not. The car was nice and tidy, but they couldn't get the tyres to work. So I don't think. I still think that was kind of why they kept him and Magnussen on despite everything, in that, look, you've not really performed to the level we expected you to, but at the same time, we've not given you the car to deliver, so we will give you the car next year, or we'll try to give you the car next year, and then you need to show us what you can do. That's how I feel on that. Lock up from Grosjean as we're talking about into turn 1. Distracted, maybe?
Yeah, Grosjean, I think, got a point to prove, and he's already been proving that point yesterday with the laps that he's done, and the fact that he's done so many laps without a major crash is in testing until probably the afternoon is pretty good for him. So he wants to prove that he deserves that seat beyond 2020, and he's good outside of the team, behind the scenes, giving feedback. So from a testing point of view, I think the Haas team, benefit from Grosjean in the car.
I don't know if this is breaking news, but it's only just gone up 3 minutes ago. The FIA will only allow Formula One teams to run dual-axis steering DAS systems until the end of 2020, with the device having already been outlawed from the start of 2021. They do move quick, which says to me, Johnson, that the FIA have known for a while if they've been able to make that decision that quickly.
Well done, chat. Sean, go to your
I'm going for it now, mate.
Discord DM.
Yeah.
Are you two all right to just chat for a minute while I sort this out? That'd be awesome if you could.
Yeah, sure.
Answer questions and stuff from chat. But yeah, the point I was just making there is they must have known for a while, really, the FIA, to be able to act that quickly.
Well, yeah, exactly. And James Allen did allude to that in the press conference yesterday, saying that they've been talking to the FIA for quite a while. So we do know. that they plan these things well in advance. So it's got to be real. Not real. It's got to be really legal. The FIA wouldn't have said, we're not sure about this. Might be a little iffy, but you can try it out. They would have said yes or no. There wouldn't have been any grey area on that front.
Yeah, I think with the whole DAS situation, I think Mert wouldn't have done it unless they got clarification on the regulations. So that's, like we said earlier, I think if it gives a huge advantage, I think a lot of teams will probably use it, but it might this season will probably be a bit too late for them to implement.
In this case, you've also got to then think about if the FIA had known for a while, if they were then now to turn around and say, "Oh, maybe not, it's illegal," that would be a massive slap to Mercedes, because they've then got to go and completely redesign half the suspension and all the steering, which is ooh, that would be an absolute nightmare.
Sorry, I was trying to sort this out. I very nearly copyright struck my own stream. I put it in the wrong box. That would be brilliant.
Oh, and we're off the air. Imagine that. I hope not. Yeah, Sean is sorting it out, guys. Stop the spam. He knows.
I'm on it, yeah. And annoyingly, it's the same person last year I gave the benefit of the doubt to when they approached me asking me to take the strike down. So there we go. That's not happening again, is it?
Yeah, it's the same person that's done.
I remember.
He's doing the same again this year. So, a few people saying they miss James Allen in the commentary box. I feel like he was a lot of bias at times, in particular with, the Jenson Button 2006 win. He absolutely screamed when Jenson Button won.
Yeah, he got a little bit excited about that one. Did I say James Allen? I meant James Allison.
Yeah, he just got a bit too carried away. And if people had headphones on at the time, they would have probably taken them off. But in a way, James Allen was enthusiastic, and I liked his way of thinking as well. But if he just got rid of the bias that he had when he was commentating, then he would have been perfect.
Yeah, I mean, we give Sky Sports a bit of stick for being biased towards Lewis and whatnot, but yeah, James Allen was very biased towards the British drivers.
And it's like with Sky Italy being biased or something. Yeah.
Well, everyone was so desperate for Button to win at the time. I think I could lay him off on that one.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying they want Murray back in the commentary box. I know it's because the poor guy's, passed away a while ago, but James Hunt in the commentary box was incredible. Stuff that he'd come up with. Oh, you just look for a compilation of his classic bits of commentary moments. That was brilliant. He held nothing back. Absolutely nothing. He would call people idiots directly in the commentary and swear at people.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Sorry if you can hear the keyboard, everybody, by the way.
It's fine. You're doing important stuff.
I don't know if you've ever filled out one of these, but it's ridiculous. It really is.
I get sorted, mate. I really do.
It should be down pretty quickly. They were brilliant last year. It's the same person. They just a little. I shouldn't tell you too much. Obviously, it's not totally fair, but it's not fair to steal streams. But same person did it last year, and then they approached me saying, "Oh, I was only doing it for visual purposes. Please don't do this. I can't live stream." And I was like, "Well, I'll tell you what. Don't do it again. I'll take the strike away. Just don't do it." And he promised he wouldn't, and he's done it. So guess what? That's not going to come down again. It's not me being tight, because it is only live timing. It is only chat and pictures. The problem is, I have to protect GPToday.net. They've given me permission to do this. They've not given anybody else permission, so it's not fair on them. So there you go.
Yeah, and it's the working of the algorithm.
Yeah.
I mean, this instantly takes exposure and everything of how the algorithm works. Everyone calls it the algorithm as if it's sentient. Sometimes you think it is. You know, and that's massively unfair. They got 1,200 people watching.
Yeah,
They should be watching its stream.
they should
are
be.
just not on this channel.
Yeah, I think they just want to find a way to watch it without having to, like, the official stream, without having to pay money for it.
Don't worry, I'm spamming the real link in the chat because they don't seem to know how to settle their chat so that people can't post links and stuff like that.
Oh, that's annoying. Oh, I just like
yeah,
when it
somebody just
happens.
said, where are you? I've just seen Max Claydon talking about the Hungarian Grand Prix on Button One, and it was Anthony Davison that made that live stream thingy for me. that when he's just like, Martin Brundle, what have you done?
I remember that Grand Prix. I was watching it from like start to finish, and when Jenson Button won, literally my mum and dad and I were literally out of our chairs and just screaming. I think I was 11 at the time, and that was just brilliant. And I don't think we're going to get the same enthusiasm with David Croft. If like say a rookie wins or something like that, or if like say Norris or Russell or Albon wins, I don't think we're going to get the same enthusiasm as say Jenson Button or Lewis Hamilton won their first race. So, you know, I think James Allen commentated on Hamilton's first win. I think it was in Canada, so
I think he did.
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, because to be honest, the times when he gets mega overexcited and loud, I think it was pretty justified for that race, especially because that was Kubica's huge F1 accident.
Oh, 2012 Crofty came along. Was it that?
Well,
Is it only 2012?
Yeah, it was because 2011 was BBC's last year, and that was Brundle and Coulthard.
Yeah, because I'm sure Crofty did all like the Radio 5 stuff, didn't he, or Radio 5 Live on the BBC?
Oh yeah, he was still doing that. So
what was I saying before all that drama and excitement? As bad as excited to get to testing, isn't it? Yeah, banning the DAS for next year, so it's legal for this year.
I don't want to see it go. Like we said earlier, I don't want to see it go. It's a
shame
good innovation.
in some ways, isn't it? Because it is a bit of innovation, and the FIA don't like innovation anymore, or FOM don't. So, is that Vettel stopped on track? That is Seb Vettel on track. We're going to get a red flag here unless he gets going.
You're spoiling it for me. I'm literally like 20 seconds behind.
Oh, yeah, spoiler alert. I think he's getting out.
Fine.
During testing, it's better to have spoilers because it means you're ready and you can look closer at what's about to happen. Oh.
That's a red flag. I can't see.
I'm a little bit further behind, but there was a massive puff of smoke from the back of the AlphaTauri.
Oh yeah, then look. I'm watching the replay now. I'm seeing it. It might be the engine or something, or a bit of puff.
So yeah, red flag is out. Seb's getting it. It's obviously a technical issue, isn't it? For that, that's not a crash. Flash forward to Vettel spinning or something. Yeah.
Typical. The ones who had mechanical issues were the Ferrari team in 2018. Oh yeah, you just parked in a.
No smoke.
No, so I think it might have just been.
Electrical.
Yeah, like similar to Bottas's issue, but actually Bottas actually made his way to the pits and realised the issue before it got worse.
I think the other thing as well in testing is it doesn't necessarily have to be a mechanical problem as such. If they spot something in the data, they can just stop the car because they know they'll just bring the red flag out and that's that. So it might not be a failure. It might be they've just seen something that could go bang and they want to check it and don't want to risk the car running anymore. So we'll see on that. I'll keep an eye on it. I'll keep an eye out on Twitter, see if Ferrari don't tend to tell us too much. That's been the case for years now. We don't hear much from Ferrari generally. Much better on social media, it has to be said, though. Since Mattia Binotto came in, I didn't know he was such a Twitter man, but seems to love social media.
Yeah, and they've also had esports present as well, and one of their drivers actually won the esports championship. So you know that they're innovating in that way, and they seem to be doing a good job on that front. Let's hope that they do the same on track and maybe win a title one day again. Because if their esports counterpart can do it, let's hope that their real life counterpart can do it.
So commentary saying that looks like a failure. The steering wheel screen was still on, so I would argue possibly not electrical, because that was still running. But he was slow on his approach to the hairpin, and then seemed to pull over. So whether the team have just gone onto the radio and said no, don't even bother, just pull over. They're off out to fetch the car now. We got a red flag. At 9:36 UK time, 10:36 in Spain. Verstappen still fastest, 1:17.6, 19 laps on the board. Ocon 1:17.7, 33 laps on the board. 17.9 for Stroll. 19 laps for Bottas as well, 1:17.9, 1:18.1, 20 laps, 40 laps for Vettel. So I tell you what, he's pulled over, but he's had a pretty good morning lap-wise so far. On a 1:18.4, I'll do super chats in a minute as well. 1:18.5, 22 laps, 1:20.9, 12 laps, and then Latifi's done 13 laps with no time. Magnussen, Norris, and Ricciardo in this afternoon. I'll try and make sure that I do the who's in the car this morning. You can see it's kind of pointless having that scroll on the bottom because you can see it on the timing screen. Who's in the car this afternoon? So yes, and thank you, chat. Yeah, I'm aware. I've contacted YouTube, just waiting for them to take forever to do anything as usual. But yes.
Someone's saying first red flag. It was a red flag yesterday towards the end with Raikkonen, so it's a second red flag. Only in 3 days. It's not bad. Last year we had like 2 or 3 red flags in one session once. I'm not gonna say it happens today, touch wood.
Yeah, about 15 minutes ago yesterday, wasn't it, for Kimi? Sorry, Jonty.
Yeah, technically we did get one yesterday, but there was so little time left, it didn't really make much difference. But they
just ended the session. Well, they had 5 minutes to go. They still carried on after with 5 minutes to go, but I didn't see the point.
It's the first one of today, yeah, just checking that. Contributions, thank you very much to Andrew. I said thanks to Liam earlier. Said, interesting thing to note, in the 2021 regulation, the FIA changed the steering rules to enforce that the steering isn't only on one axis, so DAS is banned next year. The FIA know about it, know it's legal for now. Thank you very much, mate. You sent me that a while ago, so this wasn't breaking news when I said it. But thank you for sending that one over, mate. Appreciate your support. Somebody else in the super chat. I've got a few that I've missed so far, but I do always get around to because I do them all in a kind of chunk. I keep reading names, making sure they're not anything rude. Bilgo Metz, thank you very much for your contribution there. Your message isn't showing up for some reason, so bear with me a moment. It should refresh on the old Streamlabs shortly.
He retracted it. I can't.
He's got a second one, yeah. So hang on. It's up there. Doesn't matter. Ignore me. I think Mercedes is constantly talking about leaving F1 for leverage on them, always pushing the limits on the rules or innovating. Lol, he says. So I don't think Mercedes are going anywhere, John T. Not anytime soon. I think they've got a few more years in them yet.
Oh no, not when they've just made new partners for the sponsorship. And there was some other news last week that was a really long deal, and I can't remember what it was.
Sorry, I'm just popping something in their chat.
Cheeky flug.
Did anything notable happen today? That's from Peter. Well, really just Seb stopping. I mean, some kind of failure on his car. But I think in terms of lappage, Ocon's doing well. 33 laps on the board. Obviously, everybody in the pits at the minute for the red flag. But 33 laps for Ocon. That's good because they had a bit of a rough old time yesterday with a few issues, Renault. I say rough old time. They were nearly at 100 laps. So it wasn't too bad. 40 laps for Vettel before he stops. That's good. Sainz has done 32 laps as well. So some good lap counts as well. Yesterday, it's been mental how many laps they've done. It really is. So, yeah.
It's due to the reduced running. They have 2 less days. They only have 6 days, so they want to try and get as much running as they can. And they might start to push a bit more in the second week. because it's the final week of them actually saying, right, what can we do to further improve the car?
Streams down, sorted. Thank you, YouTube. You won't be listening because you're bots, but yeah. Anyway,
Oh, that's good. That's good. And chat's pointed out as well.
there you go.
If it's not chat pointing it out, it'll still be up. So thanks, chat.
I'm just having a quick scroll through Twitter. If you're not following, holy cow, Bloomy.
What is Bloomy doing? Jeez.
Mate, that is going straight in the stream. I don't care. So I was just going through Twitter. I was just going to
Good,
say,
isn't
if
it?
you're not following fake Ted Kravitz on Twitter, please do. His technical analysis is superb.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Oh, God. Introducing the Mercedes Death Star, a fitted choice for the dominant force in the sport. It opens and closes too. Oh, my God. That is a lead.
Oh, well, look at that for quality intro to the stream. That's a terrible shot. That is Bloomy's latest work. Good old Lewis. Completely randomly. I like that a lot. That is really cool. That could be a wallpaper. Not a Mercedes fanboy, he says, with his LH44 shrine, as Dan would put it. But there you go. Just something to show off there.
It's kind of like a ship.
It just looks cool. And I love the little red Ferrari style shit. I forgot what it's called now.
It's the red Imperial shuttle because that's for Nikki.
Nah, be Ferrari really small and slow. I'm joking. But yes, there we go. For Nikki, I like that. That's cool. But that is... yeah. Do you know what? If anybody's flying an Imperial shuttle, it was Nikki Lauda.
I can see a
I'll
bit of
remove
red
it,
in
so.
there as well.
Yeah, but if you looked at the second picture on the street on that thread,
Yeah, oh God. Wait, hold on. It looks the same though, doesn't it?
no, it's just been extended a little bit,
Oh no.
like the steering column.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've noticed that.
Tacitus in chat, apologies, says I was actually using the RS77R stream to watch testing and listen to the F word on my phone. Shame, no way to watch that here. With respect, if you can watch his stream, you can watch mine on your phone. And secondly, if he was that bothered, he'd make his own bloody, or she would make their own stream, put the effort in. There you go. So apologies for removing my content from somebody else's channel.
Yeah, you're not. You wouldn't be region locked anywhere, would you?
No, I'm not on YouTube. Article 13 is not kicked in, so there's no issues there
And
yet.
never will for us.
But I don't think it will for anybody, to be honest. It was
Well,
one of those things.
Yeah, but it's been formally announced that, it's official. We won't be subject to that.
Yeah, very true. We better not talk about it because we might end up having issues.
He wasn't streaming the broadcast at all. He was streaming this screen that you're looking at now. Because I was looking at the stream while he was doing it. I always check when people say such and such is streaming whatever, because if it is just footage, then it's none of my business. But if it's my stream, it is. So there we go. Who's in the commentary box? I've forgotten her name with Will Buxton. She's been really good this week.
Or is it Natalie?
No, it's Lee something.
No, it's not Lee McKenzie, is it?
No. Laura Winter.
Laura
there we go.
Winter.
I've really liked her insight this week in the paddock and that. But yeah, let's get back on track now. We've sorted all that stuff out, all that nonsense. What have we got going on? So we're still under red flag, waiting for this Ferrari to be recovered. There'll be no rush whatsoever. We've got 2 hours and 15 minutes left to go. So there we go. I wonder how long this red flag will be. They're just putting the covers over the Ferrari, so we think it's just a technical issue. Well, we know there was no crash or anything like that. He's just literally pulled over. Just going to go over to check Ferrari over on Twitter. I can't imagine they're saying anything, to be perfectly honest with you.
They're
Well,
like
would you?
Mercedes. They're like Mercedes. They want to keep it on the down low because they don't want to give technical information just yet. They don't want to. They want to try and sandbag as much as possible. They don't want to give important information away to their competitors. That's what lost them last time.
But credit to Vettel, though. I mean, from what we saw with his helping out on the covers, he's going to be pretty good at sticking a duvet in the duvet cover. He was pretty quick.
Yeah, so that time is pretty alright, and he's done 40 laps, so it's not that bad. So he's not going to lose that much running today.
Interesting question from Nicholas in chat. What do we reckon to Cyril Abitbol saying that Renault are likely top three? What I would say to that immediately is, isn't that what they said last year? Similar
They
things?
say that every year. They say that every year. And I think if they're a bit too optimistic, it usually doesn't mean much. Like a few years ago, before McLaren was on the up again, McLaren would say, "Oh, we have the best car, we have the best chassis or whatever," and then they ended up bottom. Whereas the year where they actually finished fourth, they were setting low expectations, and it kind of helped them a little bit.
I think Renault could learn a lot from McLaren last year, Jonty. Do your talking on the track. Don't go out making all these claims, because you're going to look stupid if you don't deliver.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. McLaren didn't really come out making too many claims at the start of last year. They were quite humble about things, saying, "Look, we've got a lot of work to do, engine supplier, blah blah blah," and they just they downplayed everything and then surprised everyone. It was great.
It was almost literally the opposite to what they'd done previous years, wasn't it? Because they were all like, "Oh yeah, we're going to do this. We've built a good car. We're going to challenge," and then they've just not performed at all. So, I don't think Renault are top three at all. I think they're going to be in the fight for fourth at best, but they're going to have to step up from last year because they were beaten by a customer, as we all know. And Toro Rosso were not a million miles away from nicking that fifth spot. And AlphaTauri, as they are now, reckon they're going to be, they can challenge top five this year. That's their target. So I said it a couple of times in streams. You've got Racing Point reckon they can go for fourth, McLaren going for fourth, Renault going for at least fourth, and then you've got AlphaTauri going for fifth. Well, that's 4 teams going for 2 places. It's going to be great, that midfield. And if Williams can step up as well and Haas can sort out their tyre problems, it's going to be so competitive. It is going to be so good. So if this DAS system turns out to be the greatest technical innovation since the double diffuser or whatever, and Mercedes disappear with the title, don't worry. Just watch the midfield if they ever show it on TV, because it's going to be insane. I mean, when we should be watching the midfield anyway, because you should be keeping an eye on all teams. I know people have fans. I watch everything in F1. I like to watch throughout the field, but I know people have their favourite drivers, so I tend to focus on them. But, just sit on the fence for a race and watch the midfield, because it's insane. You'll never see Carlos Sainz. He does exist, but you'll never see him on TV, bless him. But yeah, I'm confident. But I can't see Renault top three. I'd be stunned, as I keep saying.
F1 should hire me as a race director. When I commentate, I usually cover the midfield more than the leaders sometimes. Yeah.
You see, the thing that gets me is that if all the claims that Renault are making about this power unit are absolutely genuine, that means that they're still not going to win anything, because McLaren will destroy them.
Yeah, because that was the thing last year, this 1,000 horsepower thing. And I genuinely believe, I don't know about the 1,000 horsepower, but I genuinely believe it's got some very good power in there. But like you say, McLaren built the better chassis, and you possibly argue from what we've seen so far, not technical expert or anything, the McLaren looks a little bit tidier again. So we'll see. I mean, can they afford? You've got they're constantly linked with walking away from the sport, and their future's brought into doubt pretty much all the time. Can they really afford another year being beaten by a customer? I know that McLaren are off at the end of the year and off to rejoin Mercedes and whatnot, but I that's never going to look good to a new CEO, is it? The person we're selling our engines to is better than us.
No, it's not. Even their launch, they didn't show the proper car, so it's saying something that they may not be as ready as last year. But Ricciardo saying that he was confident in the car this year than last year, starting to get some confidence up, but we'll see when Melbourne turns around, if McLaren continues to outqualify them every race, then we're probably going to start to question Renault.
Oh, I was going to say something then. It's just literally completely disappeared from my tiny little mind. I can assure you it was riveting. Whatever it was. What was I going to say? Oh my God. It was a question I was going to put to you actually, Jonty. No, it's gone. It'll come back. It's gone. Yeah, we'll take some questions from chat while we're still under red flag. They've only just got it on the back of the truck. They'll be round to the pits pretty swiftly though. So, but yeah, just got on the back of the flatbed. Or I call it a flatbed. Have I made that up? No, that is a flatbed. That's fine.
Whenever I see F1 cars being lifted onto the back of these trucks, it reminds me of the joke picture Top Gear found with someone getting their Veyron delivered on the back of a dodgy little pickup. That's a hell of a lot of monetary investment to be riding around on not the best looking flatbed truck.
No.
I mean, I know they're not very heavy, but that's still not the biggest of high-abs.
Interesting point, actually. Someone said they think Renault will be the next Williams.
Ow.
That is a bit harsh. I wouldn't say that yet. I think they're still going to be a midfield team for a long time. The CEO is not going to let them drop back like Williams has.
I don't think Renault will stick around as a team. They never do. We go through this all the time with them. They turn up. I'm just going back a bit now. They were Tolman and all of that business, and then you go to Benetton, and then they become Renault, and then they go off and become Lotus, and then they're Renault, and then they're Lotus, and then they're Renault again, and now they're on about leaving or possibly stay. You just like, I understand that they have to sort of base it on, let's not get too businessy, but they have to base it on what the markets are doing, you know, what it pays. Does it pay off to be in this sport at the moment? You know, when they left teams that were leaving, like Toyota and Honda, for example, when we got to the whole credit crunch and that, the economic crisis, they've got to be careful. They've got to make sure it makes business sense. But at the same time, you kind of like, well, just either commit or don't. Do you know what I mean? If you don't want to, then sell the team to a manufacturer or whoever that do want to be in the sport for a long time, or to a team that are going to, like a Carlin, for example, if they could do it. But yeah, I find Renault very frustrating, and I find it very hard. I don't have any, there's no hate there for them at all, but I find it very hard to really get behind Renault when I'm pretty confident that they're probably going to bog off again in a few years, and then, F1 wasn't for us and it wasn't financially viable, and then 3 years later return. And you're just like, well, what are you doing? Do you know what I mean, John? That's the cynical old me kicking in again, to be honest.
Yeah, possibly.
But
you
hard to get behind them.
Yeah. I really don't know about more on that one.
So I'm waiting for this red flag to dissipate. The clock keeps ticking, by the way, if you're new to F1. Under a red flag in practice. It does in practice as well, but in testing only stops for qualifying. There is a Renault livery car outside their garage, I've noticed this week, so whether that's the livery they're going for. Are we green? The flatbed's back in the pit lane. The red flags have disappeared on the timing screens. But yes, the Ferrari is back in the pits, and we'll keep an eye out for any news, or an ear out for any news, as to what's going on. OUFC for License, have you ever been to a race? Yeah, I've been to Silverstone a couple of times, but I would love to do Spa, I'd love to do Monza, and I'd love to do Monaco, and Montreal as well. I'd like to go to Canada. But yeah, that's only Silverstone twice. For Formula One, I've been to the Superbikes quite a lot, because I grew up just up road from Cadwell Park, so you could sit in my garden and you could listen to the Superbikes all afternoon. So we used to go up there quite a lot. But from a Formula One point of view, just Silverstone. I'd like to go again this year, but it is getting expensive, Silverstone. Despite negotiating a cheaper deal, it's still getting really expensive. So yeah. Could you see the Enstone team getting bought out by Honda? That's from Doctomo15, butchering names again. No, I think if Honda are going to buy a team out, it'll be AlphaTauri.
Yeah.
Or Red Bull, if Red Bull were to disappear in the future. We'll see.
Well,
There we go.
is that
Green
going to
flag.
be when they threaten it again?
If Honda becomes a team again, I just hope they don't turn out to what they were before they went into administration, because that was heart-wrenching to watch.
Who do you think? Just
What was that? Sorry.
who,
What was
Jess?
heart-wrenching to watch? Yeah.
I just hope Honda doesn't go down the drain if they become an actual team if Red Bull and Alpha decide to go.
Yeah, true. Because their fated return wasn't the best, was it?
No, that McLaren were like, oh, we're gonna go back to the golden days where McLaren and Honda were good, and they all got so hyped up about it, and it just went down the drain. So just hope Honda doesn't turn out to be the same. It's best for them to be with Red Bull and AlphaTauri, personally.
I think, as well, from a Honda perspective, they've finally got to grips with this engine, this power unit. Do they then want to have to divide resources into a team? Surely the troubles they've had in the past, it's better for them just to focus on building an engine, or a power unit, rather than having to then worry about building and designing a car. What are we watching here? Is that just going to be a lock-up for the McLaren? It is indeed. So it's locking up into turn one. But yeah, just stick with your engines and your power units. You've got it right. Keep it going. But yeah. You can watch live. What's the word? Legitimately, that's the word, not logically. Legitimately watch live on F1 TV, wherever it's available, on Sky F1 and Sky Italy. Unfortunately, as with everything in Formula 1 at the moment, apart from some race highlights, it's all behind a flipping paywall, even though it's just testing. I've got to say, Johnsy, I know we've had this rant many a times between us, but for testing, they could have opened this up to free-to-air, at least made it free on Sky. I mean, or put it on YouTube. I mean, come on. It's testing.
Yeah, it's silly. And the thing that always bugs me with this is that they just can't see how they would be getting more. That's what always bugs me with stuff like this. It's like, you would be better off. You'd be getting more money out of people and fans if everyone could just go onto YouTube and watch it and what have you, but they just don't see it, and I don't know how.
They could do what Formula E did. They stream free practice and quali on YouTube for us Britons, and then when it comes to the race, they put it somewhere else. They don't put it on YouTube. So
I'd be interested to see what the Formula E deal is with the BBC this year. I know we'll probably not know for a while, because last year they were able to show it on the BBC and Eurosport and BT Sport, and still stream it on YouTube Live, the races, whereas now they've dropped BT Sport, or BT Sport have dropped them. It's on the BBC and on Eurosport, but they're not allowed to stream it on YouTube in the UK. The race itself. They could, I think they do quali now, but they can't do the race. So I was kind of like, I'm intrigued as to whether BBC are paying more or Eurosport are paying more. Is Formula E getting to a point where broadcasters are willing to pay a bit more money for it now?
Yeah, I think the only things people can watch, I think, legitimately for free, is on Channel 4 W Series, and that's growing quite a lot as well. I was at Autosport watching the W Series talk on a Friday, and it was great. And I think a lot more people were getting behind it towards the midpoint of the season, towards the end, because it was free and they could watch it. And it's going to get bigger that they're going to have it in Mexico and USA, I think it is. I'm not sure, but they're going to have it the same time as Formula One, the same weekend as Formula One. They're going to gain so much publicity from that. But from F1, Sky Sports have just got this exclusive deal, and they're already losing so much ratings due to the fact that it's not free to air as much anymore. It's only free to air at the British Grand Prix.
Bottas has just smacked in a 16.8.
Wow.
22 laps so far for him to go fastest. Annette was just saying it bugs me that Foxtel Australia takes Sky streams, but they aren't doing testing, and Aussie's a geo-block from F1 TV. That's another thing. Why couldn't they have opened up F1 TV for everybody this 2 weeks? And I know it's all about Sky and this deal, but I mean, and it is basically the same coverage, but They could have opened that up for free and let everybody use it. And when it does then get launched in the UK, which I fully expect it will after Sky's deal runs out, at least then people have had a taster of it and can get a feel and go, do you know what, I would pay for this once they've ironed out the problems when it's been available. But I just think they could have done something a bit more. It's great they're streaming it, don't get me wrong, because last year I was so annoyed because we had, it
was the mornings when it wasn't streamed on the Sky Sports, and then the afternoon it was. Whereas this time they're streaming the whole thing. And
they
with
only
no
did the
adverts.
first week, didn't they?
And they got no adverts for a change.
Not like Sky.
I mean, it's been mentioned in the chat, and sometimes I think I'm a broken record on this one, but I think all race series need to take a look at the British touring cars with the way they do their coverage. I know ITV have got multiple channels that they can work, with. They can dedicate but Sky. It's not like they don't already have an entire channel for it. And if there's anyone in the chat who is outside the UK, doesn't watch it, British Touring Car Championship, the coverage starts at about 10 o'clock in the morning on the Sunday and stays on all day. All of the support races, all of the bits in between. They're constantly talking to drivers, having interviews. You get to see every last little thing that goes on the entire day. Talking, it's on for 8, 9, 10 hours. Why can't Sky Sports F1 do that when they've got a channel already dedicated to it?
That frustrates the life out of me as well. Like you say, we are a bit of a broken record on it, but you're absolutely right. The coverage should be all day, every day. And I also don't understand. I know maybe it's to try and pull people in that want to watch specific parts of their coverage, but why do they do sort of driver parade and then on the grid and then the race and then a post race? Just start streaming at 10 o'clock in the morning or whatever and run all day. You don't need to have all these stupid other bits and bobs in between. And apparently we've been too negative about Renault, even though it's just testing. And I think the point we're making was they were crap last year. That's irrelevant. That's nothing to do with testing. But it's not negative about Renault. I'm talking about their future and how they're just always dumping on the sport and never want to stick around. So that's my negativity with Renault. I've not been negative about their testing at all. In fact, I covered it yesterday. They had floor issues, which cost them tyres. I've already talked about Ocon's good lap count today. So,
Latifi set a time.
Has he got a time on the board? 1:19.4. Oh, he's last. Come on, Latifi. Negative as well. 19 laps. Good stuff from him. And also, Jonty, actually on Twitter, somebody talking about how actually this DAS ban was in the regulations anyway for 2021, which I'd not seen. I've not read through them properly yet, to be fair.
Yeah, because it's 10.5. It's the realignment of the steered wheels as defined by the position of the inboard attachment of the relevant suspension members. Remain a fixed distance from each other. But it's the wording of the end part, which must be uniquely defined by a monotonic function of the rotational position of a single steering wheel. So, one, it says they can't have two steering wheels, which is fairly self-explanatory. Can you imagine trying to drive that? But it's the point that it specifically states rotational position of the steering wheel. And because the steering wheel isn't rotating, it's not an applicable regulation. That's how Mercedes is getting around it.
So for a layman like me, does that mean that they're going to reword the regulations to cover pulling the steering wheel forward and pushing it back for 21?
I'm not sure.
That's
the thing.
I just try to work out. It's a fair tweet, and thank you to Brandon for sending that over. The rule says Article 10.5 of F1's incoming. Oh, you've read it, John, so I won't do it again. But thank you for that. But I'm just trying to work out whether that means that whether that covers this DAS system or whether it's going to have to change the wording again for 2021. So. I nearly read that as Bottas having a technical issue, but that was from yesterday. I don't know why that's cropped up now. We have a new fastest lap. That's from Lights Out. So 1:16.8 from Bottas. That is 1/10 up on Wednesday's best time. So Bottas still fast for Verstappen. 7/10, by the way. Again, it's only testing. But do you find it curious, Jonty, that Mercedes are quite happy to go out and set some okay laps and not just cruise around like they were last year?
Not really. You have. It's still a sport. At the end of the day, you've got to play the games.
Yeah.
And we've had so much time of them trundling around middle of the pack with everyone going on and on about sandbags. You know, you have to mix things up. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, people get bored. Sometimes things do go differently. You know, it's highly unlikely, but not impossible, that the Mercedes is actually has some inherent issue that makes it harder to drive in a race situation, and they don't do as well. Like I say, highly unlikely, but not impossible. So by doing this, it just throws people a curveball.
Just something on Ferrari, actually. Sorry, I found this earlier. Or this morning I was reading through some stuff. There were some concerns yesterday. People asking, did Ferrari have problems? Obviously, now we know they've had a problem because Vettel stopped on track. But a lot of this running this week, it's not irrelevant for Ferrari. Of course it isn't, because they're going to want the data from this car to compare to next week's car. But it's next week. We need to be keeping an eye on Ferrari, because that is when they're bringing their B-spec car. And Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc have kind of confirmed that this week is just about getting the mileage in, and they're not delivering performance. They are not delivering their full performance yet, just trying to get the miles on the clock. And then next week, I think we'll see a lot more from them when they bring the B-spec car. So, no, apart from obviously this breakdown for Vettel, still in the pits, by the way, I don't think there's any major concerns of their performance at the moment, because they're not delivering any. They've admitted to that, so there we go. Looking forward to seeing what they do to that Ferrari next week. The Mercedes last year turned up for the second week with some interesting innovations, and then rocked up again to Australia with even more innovations. But we are at 10 past 10 UK time, or nearly 10 past 10, and that's 10 past 11 in Spain, so we've got an hour and 52 to go. Bottas 1:16.8, 24 laps. Verstappen 1:17.6 on 19 laps. Lance Stroll, third place, Racing Point, still doing well in testing. 1:17.6, 26 laps. Ocon, again, really good lap count, 1:17.7, 42 laps. Daniel Kvyat, 1:17.9, 27 laps. Sebastian Vettel, currently in the pits, broke down on track if you are just tuning in, 1:18.3, 40 laps. Carlos Sainz Jr., 1:18.4, also did 40 laps. Antonio Giovinazzi, 1:18.5, 30 laps. Grosjean, 1:18.7 on 21 laps. Latifi's also done 21 laps on a 1:19.4. So that is, if we just ignore the top five, that is 2/10 between Vettel, Sainz and Giovinazzi. I'm trying to work out the midfield. Obviously, Vettel won't be in that midfield, but 1:18.5 Gio. So it's pretty close in there, lap time-wise. But like I say, not a big deal, lap times in testing. Was interested to hear what Sky said yesterday. If you want to talk about running order, I don't like doing this on the first week, because it's... if you're testing again, it's pretty irrelevant anyway, but certainly the first week is totally pointless worrying about. But Sky seem to think Red Bull, on performance and consistency, are second fastest this year to Mercedes, and Ferrari are third. So, but take that with a pinch of salt, I would say, because last year Autosport, we talked about Ferrari being absolutely dominant, so there you go. No, actually, to be fair, not just Autosport, even Sky were at that one, so
Sorry, so I finally got the point Brandon was making. That's for the 2021 regs. Yeah, my brain's totally working. Yeah, that it just made me think. This is entirely the reason why all the press briefings were put out about we're closing any loopholes, blah blah blah.
okay.
It all fits together now. And they made a big deal, and everyone was talking about it with we'd change the rules so that we can make quick regulation changes to close up these loopholes. That's exactly what they've done.
They want to get it done now before 2021, so they could be an advantage and then get all this money.
I mean, yeah. Thank you to Brandon for that on Twitter, because I've missed that. I will have a read through. I'm going to do the 2021 regs at some point in the season. I will do, of course. But I was looking at this year's regs, looking for changes, but not a lot at all. A lot of the purple highlighted stuff is like they're just changing the job titles of certain people and all that sort of thing. So nothing major. Obviously, the shark fin thing we've talked about and little bits like that. I'm just having a look at some averages and whatnot over on F1 Debrief. Definitely give them a follow on Twitter at F1 Debrief. Giovinazzi, his C3 run. Did an 18.5 and an 18.9, then a cool down lap, then an 18.8, a couple of cool down laps, then a 19.1 and a 19.5. So a bit all over the place, I think it's fair to say on that one. Same with Ocon. 126.6, then obviously 17.7, 18.9, 19.6, 19.8. So that was on the C3. And there's one that might be worth it. Sebastian Vettel, before he stopped on track, 18.3, 19.0, 19.2, 19.8, and then 2 120s. So a little bit, yeah, not like Bottas the other day when he was popping in whatever, like it wasn't this time, but like 17.4, 17.4, and all that sort of thing. So what's Verstappen doing at the minute? He's 4 tenths down in the final sector to Bottas, 2 tenths down in the middle sector, and 1 tenth down in the first sector, 7 tenths overall. It does feel silly. Talk about lap times in testing, it really does, but they're on the screen, so we'll give them a read, definitely. Who haven't we talked about this week, chat? We've talked a lot about Williams, we've talked about Mercedes, we've talked a bit about Red Bull, we've talked a lot about Racing Point, we've covered Renault this morning. I keep telling you we love the AlphaTauri.
I think we covered much of it. It was a Mercedes show yesterday.
Yeah, the Williams show on Wednesday.
What show would it be today, I wonder?
Well, so far it's the Ferrari show, because they're the only one who've done something interesting.
And Renault show. Oh, God.
It does. I tell you what, John C. Like, and Jess, you were listening in yesterday morning. It does feel like a bit of a damp squib this morning, because yesterday we had all that with the really cool Mercedes innovation that got us all excited as Bottas does a 16.6. And today it's just like, what's happened? Ferrari stopped on track and Bottas did a 16.6. That's about all we had today. Alfa Romeo, a couple of you saying that. I'll give you shout outs. I'll just call you Stark PL. And Flying Tiger. I've talked about Alfa Romeo. OUFC for life as well. I never know what to say about Alfa. They're one of those teams, and if you watch the race reactions last year that we did, we'll get into that next week. I'll talk about channel update and that. But yeah, that we did on the race reactions, I always found myself going, and Kimi Räikkönen is 7th or whatever, but I don't remember seeing anything of him. And for whatever reason, when I was doing watch-alongs, Alfa Romeo just never registered in my brain. It's terrible, because it's a very nice-looking livery. I know they've not really gone mad with it this year. It's usually a very tidy car. But what I would say on their 2019 performance, John T, is I was quite disappointed, because I can remember you on the final, or us on the final day when you rocked up for the final stint on the testing streams. We were both very positive about Alfa and felt like they could have been a bit of a dark horse with Toro Rosso, didn't we? Whereas when they actually got to the season, they didn't exactly have... It wasn't awful, but it wasn't what we were expecting. And I just don't really know what to make of them this year either. Of course, there's no point reading into testing, because the times are irrelevant. It's about lap count, and Raikkonen did top it yesterday. But I think he topped the session last year. But I just... What are they there for? Do you know what I mean? They're this a big name like Alfa, but they are effectively just Sauber. So it's just a midfield team. I don't really know what to expect from them this year. Can they challenge that 4th spot, or is that a bit much to ask?
It seems like it might be a lot to ask. It's like, so 2018, we were astounded by the advancements that they made. They went from absolutely dead last to constantly being in Q3. It was a huge jump. But then last year, they really just kind of sat there. They didn't go up, they didn't go down. They just kind of sat just behind the middle. Seemed to be their natural place. I'm worried that they're not getting the same kind of extra input from Ferrari that the Haas is. And I don't know why, because one of the main things this brings is, extra income for the whole group. There's a reason that they chose to go with the Alpha label. A massive part of the Fiat group. So,
I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for, and I don't want to risk saying it and get it completely wrong. Yeah, I just don't know what to expect. But they've got Kimi, massive experience. You'd expect him to be pretty solid. Gio really improved last year. But I feel like they might be a team that puts a lot of focus early on onto 2021. What were they, 8th last year in the Constructors? If that was Sauber, you'd say that's a really good season. With it being the name Alfa Romeo, it doesn't look quite that way. It's amazing just in my head. I don't know what chat think or what you guys think, but just in my head, seeing the name Alfa Romeo, you expect them further up the grid. It's amazing what a name change can do. But I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I not seen much of them really. Like I say, Kimi was fastest yesterday, then stopped on track. But I can't really say much on Alfa because I'm rubbish with them, and I don't know why. And I love that team. I loved them when they were Sauber, and when they became BMW Sauber, and then BMW Sauber Ferrari, which was bizarre, and all of that sort of thing. So I'm a big fan of that team. Again, like we were saying earlier, rooting for the underdog, but I don't know what to expect from them. Big ask for top 4, I think, Jess. I think we're probably all agreeing on that one. But if you were to make a bold early prediction based on all this totally relevant information we get in testing, where would you possibly stick them this year?
Well, I would say, based on performance recently, I would say they're aiming to probably go, I think, one up, maybe 7th or 6th, because I think McLaren and Racing Point, I think, will be up, I think, probably 4th and 5th. And it's just that AlphaTauri are quite close to Alfa Romeo. And I remember last year, because I was watching the streams whilst I was at work, we were getting all so hyped about, oh, Alfa Romeo are getting some really good times. And we thought that they were going to be probably 4th or 5th. They were the surprise package. And they were performing the same as they did in 2018. They were 8th in that as well. So, but if they want to improve from last season, I would say probably 7th or 6th.
Xavier says rumours are Alfa Romeo will leave Sauber due to poor car sales. Ghost, a bit harsh on Alfa. They're a new team, cut them some slack. I'm not going to get into the new team argument because they're not. They're a new name, but they're the same team. It's a bit like
it's like the Racing Point malarkey.
Yeah, it's the same team fundamentally, but I know the point you're making. Yeah, but rumours are Alfa will leave Sauber due to poor car sales. There was something flying around in the summer last year that Alfa were on about breaking this that Alfa or Sauber, whoever, were on about breaking his tie with Ferrari and possibly switching power units and dropping the Alfa name. So I don't know if that rumour's still floating around that Alfa might disappear. It's maybe something worth keeping an eye on, but I don't know what happened to that rumour. It just completely disappeared because there was a lot of talk in some publications that are relatively well respected, claiming that they might disappear, and then that rumour itself disappeared. So whether that was just something to get through the summer break, a bit like the usual Hamilton Ferrari rumours that we get every single winter to try and pull people through, I don't know. But yeah, it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that. A story worth. I mean, if from a car sales perspective, if you're not delivering performance, you're not getting your car on screen, are you? You're not getting any TV time, then you're not going to sell as much, and it maybe doesn't make sense. Good to see the bots are back. Very exciting. Good stuff. I have a very erotic stream, apparently.
Yeah, my biggest worry with Alfa is being the Sauber team is that we get another is that they a massive improvement, go right up the field, and then we get another BMW situation. Where they were genuinely in with a title shot, and at the end of the season, BMW pulled out. Saying it's because of the global financial crisis, but come on, if that affected BMW, then I'm Chinese.
CW10 says Alfa has more car sales than ever. I'd like to own an Alfa. Like the F1 car and a road car. But I'd quite like to own an Alfa. It's one of those on my bucket list, if you like, for cars. That and Chav alert, Subaru Impreza, the WRX, I think it is. I wouldn't mind one of them either. But yeah, I'd go for an Alfa. I just talk about my dream car. I've got so many dream cars, it's ridiculous. I'm not much of a petrol head really, but there's so many cars I quite like. What else have we got going on here? I'm going to use the first four letters of your name because I don't want to absolutely insult you with my terrible pronunciation. But Akan, and I still probably butchered that one. Thank you for your contribution. Said Ferrari will blackmail Liberty if they cannot find a way to implement it, and then a laughing face. So it's a joke. Don't worry.
Is that due to the DAS?
Yeah,
Iteration?
Ferrari will copy it, but anything from 2 to 6 months, the experts reckon, to put that on a car and develop it. So it must be relatively complicated somewhere.
Is that suggesting Mercedes were doing so well in 2019 that most of their focus towards the end of the season was on the 2020 car? Because otherwise it would have taken ages to implement, like you said. And it's in the car and it's working amazingly. So they must have, yeah.
They could have run this in the tyre test in Abu Dhabi because we don't get any footage from that really, no onboards or anything. They could have been running this back then, first test on it, and then get it in the simulator and whatnot, and give it a go, and then try it at the shakedown when we don't get any proper onboard footage because they've got control of what they film. And then we see it yesterday. So I'm going to try and avoid getting back onto DAS though.
Yeah, can we not talk about?
Nick Hamley, should we have some speculation? I love how I said that like every single stream hasn't just been speculation, like it's a new thing. What about Ricciardo's seat options for next year? I think the problem we've got...
I think all the three teams are they don't want to change their lineups. I doubt it because they're going to have a huge disadvantage if they change this early on. Obviously, Verstappen and Leclerc are locked in. Hamilton, I think, is almost certainly going to stay. Bottas, if Bottas keeps up the good work he's done last season, there's no way he's going to go. So that's Mercedes locked down. Vettel is in talks with him, staying at Ferrari. And then that just leaves Albon with a point to prove. You know, where's Ricciardo going to go when all the three teams are pretty much locked down for 2021? It's either Renault or he's probably gone.
Just some news from the track. Ferrari is changing its engine after the problem that stopped Sebastian Vettel on track this morning. It will investigate the cause of the failure at Maranello. That's from The Race over on Twitter. So Ferrari changing that engine at the minute. Red Bull changed the power unit. I forgot to mention that earlier, actually, on Albon's car as a precaution. So that was yesterday. So there we go. Honda investigating that and Ferrari investigating that one too. But I was... Yeah, I think the problem is on Ricciardo is that, and the Ferrari tie, is that I think Vettel will probably end up staying if they're already talking. But also, if there isn't a seat available at Mercedes, Red Bull or Ferrari, John T, would you leave Renault? You know, even if they're not performing, even if they have another year like last year, at least it's a manufacturer drive.
Yeah, but you've got to think, as things stand and how it looks to be going, nowhere else to go.
Yeah. Maybe McLaren, I don't know, if a team come in and go for Sainz, but at the same time, if there's a seat open up at Mercedes, Ferrari or Red Bull that sees them going for Sainz, then surely Ricciardo would be the easier option to get in that car, a bit more experience, and a very talented driver. So I think the top three are locked down. I said it to Stuart on Monday. I don't think this silly season is going to go mad. It looked like it was going to, and then Leclerc tied down to a new contract, Verstappen tied down to a contract. Yes, I know that contracts are easy to get out of, but I think with those two sort of committing their immediate futures to their respective teams, that's kind of forced Mercedes' hand because that's removed the Verstappen option, and I think it's sort of... I think that means that we're just going to end up with similar... You know, Hamilton will probably want Bottas alongside him if he stays at Mercedes. I think whichever one out of Albon or Gasly perform will end up alongside Verstappen next year. And I think if they can manage them, which they did for most of last season, there were only a few major incidents, but not at every race. If they can manage Vettel and Leclerc, then I think Ferrari will probably stick with that for Vettel's experience for 21. So it's Renault or possibly having to step towards the back of the grid for Danny Ric if he wants to leave.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like a Hulk situation. Again, with Ricciardo, probably. There's some people that don't want to see him go, but if I was him, I would stay, because otherwise, he's still quite young. But
I was reading something. Sorry, I was just being sneaky on Twitter. What do you reckon, John T, for Danny Ric? What would you do in his position? Have we lost you, John T?
Where is John T? Has he muted his mic or something?
Okay, I'll check that in a minute. I was just having a read. Jack asking Codemaster if they'll be able to implement the DAS system into F1 2020 game. So it is an engine problem which caused Vettel stoppage, and the car won't be back on track until this afternoon. So that's Ferrari's morning over. So they've lost a couple of hours this morning. Some good running yesterday, so not the end of the world. Grosjean stint on the C3 18.7, 19.0. 19.9, 19.9, and a few 20s in there for cool-down laps. I'll read you the tweet from Ferrari rather than other people's ones. Actually, it makes sense. We had to stop due to an engine problem, whose exact cause we will investigate back at Maranello. We are now fitting a new engine, so we'll be back on track in the afternoon. I find it interesting that the team still call them engines and not power units. I like that one. And just another check, see if there's anything else on Ferrari. I don't think we need anything else, but no more running for Sebastian Vettel this morning. I think Seb's in the car this afternoon as well, so we should be able to get some stuff back. But that is great stuff. Verstappen stint at F1 Debrief, and please do follow them on Twitter. I feel like I'm shouting all their stuff out. But yeah, 18.3 after his out lap, then a cool down lap, then an 18.0. I'll skip the cool down laps. 19.9, 19.4, 19.4, 19.5, 19.6, 19.7. So pretty consistent from Max on his C2 run about an hour ago. So that's, yeah, I mean, good consistent running, I think, is what people are looking for in this first test, in this first week of testing. Just looking for an update. That was a Ryan Newman update, but I'll read that later and we'll maybe discuss him this afternoon. We'll see. And then Toby Gruner just saying that the FIA have already banned the Mercedes steering trick trick for next season. So, but we're kind of looking at that. We have to look at the regulations a bit because I'm not sure, because I think Brandon spotted something over on Twitter. So I'll have to go and have a look at the rules and that before I go, saying that they have banned it or whether it was banned before.
Stroll's moved up to second with a 1:17.4.
That's what happens when you're driving a year-old Mercedes, Jess.
That is true, because I think Stroll was like lower down in the first day, and I was questioning, is Stroll gonna match his teammate or anything? I know it's testing, but he is starting to put in the laps in now and starting to match his teammate in terms of the program anyway.
Give the stream a quick refresh, make sure everything's okay. I'll run through the times again in a few. There's not a huge amount. Obviously, Vettel stoppage, and then we've got a couple of interesting laps in there. Ocon up to third, 17.5, but it's been a bit of a quiet old morning so far. Hopefully it'll pick up this afternoon. I think we'll see some pace this afternoon. I don't expect people to crank the cars up and start delivering the pole time from last year or anything like that, but I think we'll start to see some laps later on. Grab some headlines for the weekend and whatnot, and it's next week I'm really looking forward to. That's when we're really going to see, hopefully, some performance. I want to see Ferrari turn up, which should be good. I did actually spot a question I wanted to cover as well from chats. How boring would F1 interviews be without Danny Rick? That's from James A. Absolutely. If you watch those funny F1 montages on YouTube, it's all Danny Rick.
He has the most infectious smile ever. he just smiles in the paddock, even if he's not in a good mood. He just tries to see the good out of the situation. And that press conference when he was laughing about stuff, that just, oh god. So yeah, he's a bubbly. It's the same with Kubica as well. Someone tweeted in the Alpha Twitter on his laugh as well with Giovinazzi when they were having an interview. So yeah, I think those two have the most infectious laugh on the paddock, I think, both with Ricciardo and Kubica.
Exactly. In chat there, if only Smiles won championships. Absolutely. Annette would love that. But yeah, just something said about Ocon's laps there, 50 laps. Some good running this morning in that Renault. But what I mean, Hamilton did 106 yesterday morning. So we're not quite heading towards that tally for anybody at the moment, but still some excellent running out there again. But yeah, are you looking forward to Drive to Survive next week, guys?
Definitely. I am. Oh, Jonty's back. Yeah, I'm excited. It's been a long time. I'm like, in hope the 28th is going by very, very slowly, and I just want to watch it like now, and seeing all the hype from it. I think it's going to be a good one, and especially now that Mercedes and Ferrari are in it as well, it's going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be epic. We've got Mercedes, Germany, a constant battle between Gunther and his drivers.
Brazil, Ferrari.
Oh, I wonder if they cover that. It's quite late in the season, wasn't it?
They'll cover it, but of course we didn't get the access that everyone else agreed to from Ferrari.
No.
They're probably just gonna not do it. So
I think somebody said in chat yesterday that, or it was on Twitter, so apologies, whoever you were, I can't remember your name, but that Drive to Survive are following Williams at testing yesterday. So is
Yeah, I
that
saw
confirmation we're
that.
getting a season 3?
I hope so. But we don't know how season 2 is gonna go, so I don't know have they agreed to like a multi-deal or something? I swear every season they're just gonna follow Williams and have like a special dedicated episode like they've done.
I'm fine with
Um,
that. I'll just make lots of videos on Williams.
Oh yeah, because for those of you that weren't watching the first stream, might have a moment in the Williams episode in season 2. There you go,
Might.
you heard it there first. You said might. I didn't. That's the key word there. Might.
I think the thing with Netflix, they're quite weird with how they do things. I mean, like, maybe with it in a sport, it's not so bad, but they tend to do like only so many seasons of something and then sort of stop doing it. So, for example, like, this is totally not F1 related now, but Santa Clarita Diet, I love that flipping show. It is so good. But because the actors were sort of demanding more money for each series they did, they kind of stopped after 3. And I think they like to do that. Like Stranger Things is stopping after season 4. There are a number of things they do, so they're quite weird how they do it, but it kind of makes sense to keep new stuff coming. But you're not really paying actors, are you, for Formula One? So I suppose in theory they could do one for every season for the next 100 years if they wanted to. But the more the merrier. It just gives us something. It just. This is the thing, Jonty. We said this last year. It just plugs that gap, doesn't it, between the end of testing and the beginning of Australia, just very nicely.
Yeah. Yeah, it does fill that gap. In fact, I think they should have it a little bit earlier.
Do you reckon?
Because it's a fairly hefty binge watch in, just under 2 weeks.
Most people watch it in one day.
Well, yeah, a lot of people do.
Probably you included.
Jonty's not off to bed after work on Friday, are you, mate? You're just going to stay up all night and watch it.
But honestly, there probably should be an episode for each race.
Yeah, they just do it in random orders or something. I remember last season.
Well, it tends to roughly stick to a team and episode.
Like I think they covered Leclerc one episode because Leclerc was moving to Ferrari.
A group review. Annette said I should do a group review.
Like a reaction.
No.
That would just...
Drives. I can remember last year, Jonty, last year going, why don't you do a watch along of Drive to Survive? It'd be like the worst watch along ever because I'd be sat watching it and saying nothing. It would just be a blank screen.
No, that's what I would do. I would want to actually watch it without people talking into my headset every couple of seconds.
Goggleword.
Gogglebox, it's called. Gogglebox.
Well, that's kind of what the watch-alongs were supposed to be.
Yeah, that was always the plan for the race watch-alongs and everything. But it ended up sort of evolving into alternate commentary.
Yeah, that was... Yeah.
Which is one of the many reasons they won't be returning for 2020.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, that's. I'm just gonna get Yeah.
Mm.
I need to stop communicating so much. I'm like, oh, why? I've just said why. But yeah, the idea was that we would, because I think we even discussed the possibility of going to one of those. I can't remember what they're called, John T. Though we were thinking about doing it after Abu Dhabi in 2018, and it was like an F1 screening party thing they do. And we're going to go there and then review it afterwards, weren't we? What were they called?
Oh, yeah. Grand Prix screenings. Brilliant, brilliant concept. I don't know if they're still going, to be honest.
I think I follow on Twitter. Let's have a look, because that might be an idea for like the end of season Abu Dhabi reaction. If we can get there, mate, and whatnot, we could sit down and review the race to a proper camera or the season.
I've just seen something on Twitter about Will Buxton. They might be watching our streams when we're talking about Ricardo, but you can see Will Buxton absolutely losing it.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah,
He's done
got-
Orlando.
Yeah, he's done a Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo.
What's he laughing at?
I don't know. Like, Ted is saying something and then he just loses it.
I mean, Ted's fantastic. We talked about commentators earlier, weren't we? Ted's fantastic because I think he's the only one who can really rein in Crofty.
Yeah, there was even a petition at the start of the year to bring back Ted's notebook. I remember, because Ted wasn't doing much of testing in the first week.
Yeah, there was a whole "Where's Ted? Save Ted" that went on at the start of last year.
And then he was back.
Well, it was a brilliant thing because someone set up, I still don't know who did it, but someone set up the fake Ted Kravitz account. And someone sent it to me, and they'd got like about 15 people following it or something. I was like, oh, he's made it quite funny. And then retweeted it, and someone probably might have been Tom Bellingham or Jess from WCF1. They saw it, and sort of by the end of the month, the fake Ted Kravitz account had got like 8,000 followers.
Yeah, it just got absolutely insane.
And you should all be following the fake Ted Kravitz on Twitter because it's hilarious.
It is funny.
It's the technical analysis stuff like, oh, that's not supposed to be there. Thank you very much to Andre. Again, that's on PayPal, but I assume that's OZ or OZ or Oz on the old Streamlabs things. Thank you, Streamlabs. It is Streamlags this week. Thank you very much for your contribution. It says, do you reckon that we could return to Nürburgring in the future? And if yes, when? Enjoy testing. I don't know if we could. I bloody hope we do. I think people talk about Hockenheim returning. I would take the GP Nürburgring circuit layout over Hockenheim, 100%. So I'd like to. I think funding was an issue for them, which is why they kind of disappeared. I mean, just for German Grand Prix in general, they really struggle to get the money together. So I'd love to see it back. I wouldn't say no. I'd never write off a circuit returning because so many times we've had old circuits disappear and then come back and whatnot. So I'd like to see it back. Not convinced it will anytime soon, but maybe when they expand this calendar to 25 races and need to fill it, which is probably where we're ending up, they might do. But yeah, I think big fan of the Nürburgring circuit. I think a lot of people are.
I think a lot of people were annoyed that the German Grand Prix was gone and stuff like France and Spain are staying because the German Grand Prix was one of the best races, but probably due to the weather, personally.
We discussed this before, haven't we, John T? I think you're quite a fan of the Nürburgring as well.
Oh yeah, the Nürburgring GP track is awesome. Always has been. It's got so much undulation in it, and I love the first corner. They're all diving downhill to a really tight hairpin that's got a funny camber on it. It keeps them all on their toes.
A lot of overtaking as well.
Daniel Kvyat, Daniel, the Russian guy. 117.4 up into second place on the
Torpedo.
Soft tyre. Which soft tyre was that? Where are we? Let's have a look. I've got the thing here. It was the C4, so he's gone up into second place in the AlphaTauri. just a couple of hundredths quicker than Lance Stroll, who's in third place. Ocon still fourth. Bottas still topping the times on a 16.6. Let's have a look how that compares to last year's racing and all whatnot. 15.4 for pole, so 1.2 seconds off last year's pole time, and we are 1:18.4 for the race. So we're quicker than the race fastest lap, which is kind of to be expected. But yeah, 1:15.4. And Williams last year, 1:19.0 was their quali time. And Latifi is matching that. Almost identical at 1:19.0. So Russell was quicker yesterday than that. So again, say it a million times. Testing doesn't mean anything. Completely pointless comparing it really. But it's just nice to have a little benchmark as to what the times are versus the race times last year. So good stuff. Somebody in chat, where are I think it was Chad. In chat asking a very interesting question, John T. I saw it on Twitter this morning, forgot to mention it. I don't know what you've seen, but some talk about whether or not, and this question, does this DAS system technically break Parc Ferme because you are making changes to the car on track?
Yes, I've been seeing about this one, and I don't think it does because it comes under the steering, part of the steering system. So every time you go around a corner, you're making changes to the car. That, again, that comes back to how they're getting around it. That was the point Mark Priestley was referring to. Because it's the steering wheel itself making changes to the steering.
I suppose as well, actually, to kind of answer that, even if those steering adjustments were part of the Parc Ferme rules and whatnot, once that car's out on track, you can change what you like anyway, can't you, for the race? As soon as the lights go out, you can do what you want. You could bring it in and put a whole new set. You wouldn't, because it would take you the whole race to do it, but you could stick a whole new chassis on that car and send it out again in theory. Because the Parc Ferme is between, as Riley said in chat there, if I recall correctly, Parc Ferme only exists until lights out of the race. So Parc Ferme is when you go out in quali this year, and then as soon as the lights go out, you can effectively do what you want, can't you? Like I said, you wouldn't. You're not going to go and rebuild your car midway through the race because it might be quicker because you're going to lose the entire second half of the race or whatever. But yeah, I think it was an interesting question spot this morning that was being put forward by people. But I think there are people that are just desperate for this to be illegal. But I'm not one of them. I love innovation like this. So the McLaren does not have it. Watching Carlos Sainz on board.
It's gonna go on forever. The argument until like the fourth round or something goes along, and then they're just gonna forget about it.
It's kind of an irrelevant point in a way as well, because whether it was already banned for 21 or whether it's been banned for 21 now, it won't be around next year. So I wonder if anybody will bother to develop it if it doesn't make much time. You know, if Mercedes are only talking a few thousandths here and there, are Ferrari and Red Bull going to adapt that if it doesn't really make a huge amount of difference to anything and it's banned already for 2021? Be interested to see if they wasted time on it. Intriguing.
Oh, they'll certainly be looking at it, possibly getting some kind of simulator setup going. And they'll definitely be doing some sort of probably CFD work if they can get any benefit from it and how much the benefit would be. Because, as we said before, there does have to be a benefit, because otherwise it wouldn't be there.
That's an interesting point from Timo in chat. Wait until the proper scrutineers get their hands on the Merc. Different story from FIA approval. That's very true. We often see, don't we, the stewards at the track deem something illegal and the FIA say it's fine, and then the FIA say something's illegal and scrutineers say it's fine. We've seen it before with things. So it might arrive in Australia and they might deem it illegal, and then it's going to have to go to FIA appeal and all that. Good Lord.
Oh, imagine that.
Yeah, but the scrutineers are working to the FIA approved rule set. So I don't think they can decide differently to the FIA.
We shall see. I still think it's going to kick off in Australia. I think Red Bull will go protest, whatever the rules say. I think they will. But hopefully the racing this year is as interesting as what's going to be going on off track. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. But yes, do you want a wet or dry Australian Grand Prix, Daniel? asks me. I'd always prefer a wet race over a dry race because at least you know you're going to get a bit of chaos and a bit of action. But yeah, I quite like Australia in the wet. It does tend to throw up. What year? I always forget this year.
2010.
2010. That was a classic. I enjoyed that.
But there was some extra points to that because not only did we have the weather throwing up chaos, we had Salbers just spitting off their front wings for no apparent reason, adding to the chaos. Remember, he had Kobayashi's front wing just fell off and he completely nerfed Heidfeld and someone else straight off.
Massive crash. Hamilton and Webber, didn't they? They had a crash.
Yeah, Vettel couldn't keep it on track.
I was just going to say, I've read that they're talking about resurfacing Albert Park and possibly making some changes to the layout for next year's race. But I
can they make changes to the layout?
Oh yeah, I mean I think we could do
a different way
changes
through the car park.
The trouble is we have this conversation every year. Or it feels like it, about how to improve Albert Park. We had it last year, didn't we, in the year before? After Liberty had come in and they started with these 3 DRS zones, or said they were going to do things like that to make it a bit more interesting. But what would you do? Would you tighten up that fast chicane at 10, 11, somewhere around there? Maybe tighten that up?
Yeah, I mean, I know that fast chicane doesn't really add much in the way of racing, but it looks awesome.
Oh god, yeah. They have got quite a few quick corners there, really. We see quite a bit. If we see overtaking, it's turn 3 generally seems to be quite a popular spot. But the thing is, it's a public park, isn't it? You can't go digging up trees and concreting grass because there are people who don't like the race being there anyway. You can't then go doing that. So they kind of restrict, a bit like Canada, Montreal, kind of restricted on what they can do.
Well, yeah, if they want to sort of expand the track anywhere, they need to start creating landfill.
Longer straight after 11 and 12? Is a suggestion in the chat?
Maybe.
Oh. Will they put it on the DRS? Actually, no, they won't because there's a DRS straight already there.
Yeah, they've already got 3.
Yeah, they can't have more than 3 because it'll be ridiculous. It'll be OP.
Again, that goes back to the whole let's try out these things for 2020 with the qualifying races. Same with the DRS placements. If we're stuck with it, use 2020 to try out some mad placements for it. You know, for example, Austria. You could realistically have that everywhere except the corners, just to see what happens.
Oh.
Pointing out in the chat, Bottas is out on C4s.
Ooh.
Now I can see what kind of time that'll do.
I think this is what we're watching now, isn't it? I was just, yeah.
Oh, Ricciardo, smile again.
Well, he did a 1:16.6 on C2s, so he's going to knock a second off that, surely, if he does a proper lap. This is his last hour and 10 minutes of the week for Bottas. Just reverse Albert Park, says Jack. I'm taking no sensible suggestions from Jack Chambers. Donations today, mate, start at $5,000.
No, don't believe Sean. Don't believe Sean. You're gonna get skin.
They're non-refundable as well.
That'll probably put you off.
Thing with Albert Park, I think it's suffering from how the cars have evolved. There's a few tracks that are not as exciting as they used to be, purely because of the way the cars have gone. Now, it's the last year that we can say that with any certainty, because massive changes for 2021. It could be completely different next year. I mean, for one suggestion, why don't they just go try Adelaide again? Adelaide was pretty good.
That was good. And considering last year, from I can't remember which track, we started to get really, really good races, like for majority of the season, apart from the first half. it was a very good season, even though there was some tracks where like there was teams that were dominating, but there was some great battles all the way around, and it was better than 2018. So due to the fact that the regulations haven't changed that much, 2020 could be much closer.
The thing is, though, right? People are going. I know so many people are going to be totally disagreeing with me on this one and say it's a stupid point, Sean. Stop being ridiculous. But Australia doesn't need to be a great layout, and it doesn't need to be a great race, because come mid-season we've all completely forgotten about it.
We always forget about Australia.
You could just not even bother running the race, and we'd all go, I'm sure Australia happened. I think we were doing this on Wednesday. It was like, what happened in Australia in 2019? It took us about 5 minutes to really pick anything out. And all right, not a huge amount happened. But for example, it's just hit me now. I completely forgot about Danny Rick losing his front wing within 3 feet of the start and all that sort of thing. So it's just a race that, unless it's an epic one, you never remember it. Whereas, although
2010.
Although the French Grand Prix was cack last year, I could tell you more about the French Grand Prix than I could Australia last year.
Glad you can.
Yeah, the last part I remember was, I think it got boring into the last part, like the last half of the race. That was just brilliant.
I don't think it was the last half of the race. It was the last half of the last lap.
Was it between Leclerc and someone else?
Oh, Leclerc was catching Bottas, but you had Ricciardo, Raikkonen, Norris, and all that lot in a bit of a mess, didn't you, towards the end?
And Norris was about to have his best result, and then he just got lost.
Yeah. It's that thing I said last year and the year before. I think when we get to Australia, we're just all so happy to see racing back that we'll kind of take any race. And it's always, Australia's always saved, or, oh my God, I've jinxed it now, knock on wood, but it's generally always saved by Bahrain as well, isn't it? That's generally a really good race, and something always happens there. So again, I'm knocking on all the wood I possibly can.
Bahrain's generally good. Bahrain's generally good in terms of real life battles. But we were all hyped about Leclerc possibly getting his first win in the second race in Ferrari, and then his engine lost power, and I think everyone on Twitter got absolutely mental and went absolutely sad that he wasn't going to win.
See, Liam Ward says in chat, Bahrain is amazing, but does anybody else, and absolutely feel free to get involved, chat with this one, but anybody else feel that Bahrain's only amazing now because it's a night race? It was a bit, I know the night race maybe doesn't make the racing any better, but from looking at it from a fan, it's a lot nicer now at night than it was in the day when it was just sand and a track. It was like, nah. Whereas now it just looks quite spectacular, and I always look forward to it. So there you go.
Because the F2 races are during the day in Bahrain, and that's still pretty good. I think it was introduced in the night race when the hybrid era started in 2014, and even because I do a bit of league racing commentary, and the best races I usually watch and commentate is Bahrain.
16.4 for Bottas on those tyres. Fastest lap so far. Purple in the middle, 28.3. Yellow in the other two sectors, 21.8 and a 26.2. So that is your fastest lap of testing, 16.4 from Bottas. So not as spectacular as I was expecting there. So proof, once again, that they're not going all out.
Sandbagging in their top.
A couple of people just pointing out the temperature in Bahrain, actually. That will obviously help with the racing. It was too hot in the daylight. I just think it was better as a night race all round, but if it's improving the racing as well because of the track temperature, then even better. And the sparks do look spectacular at night, so yes, very much looking for that. I'll run through the order. Bottas, currently the fastest, with the fastest time in testing, a 1:16.4. As someone just pointed out in chat, DAS stands for dominating all season. 39 laps. Daniel Kvyat a 1:17.4, 36 laps. Stroll a 1:17.4 on 33 laps. Definitely not the lappage we were getting yesterday and the day before. So I'll have a look at that in a lunch break and see if there's any reason why, whether it's just different programs. That's probably what it is, to be fair. Esteban Ocon a 1:17.5, 59 laps, more laps than anybody else so far today. Max Verstappen a 1:17.6, 44 laps. Antonio Giovinazzi a 1:18.0, 44 laps. Carlos Sainz a 1:18.2 on 50 laps. Grosjean a 1:18.3, 30 laps, not as many as he was doing yesterday. Went mad yesterday, did Rogro. Sebastian Vettel 1:18.3, 40 laps. He is in the pits having his engine replaced. The morning is over for Ferrari after he stopped on track with an engine problem. And that engine problem has been confirmed by Ferrari. And we've got Nicholas Latifi a 1:19.0 on 41 laps. And then in a couple of hours' time, according to this one I've got here, Alex Albon will be in for Max Verstappen. Pierre Gasly will be in the car for Daniel Kvyat. Hamilton will replace Bottas. Magnussen will replace Grosjean. Ricciardo will be in for Ocon. And Norris will be in for Sainz. So a lot of teams swapping out this afternoon. We should have, in theory, apparently 16 drivers running in total today, which means that graphic is not going to fit properly in that box. So you're going to have to rely on me telling you the final three places. So I'll try and do that a bit more regularly this afternoon.
I think it's only Ferrari, Alfa, Williams, and I'm missing some Racing Point that are just running in one driver today. So that's Stroll, Latifi, Vettel, and Giovinazzi.
Just watching Verstappen, personal bests on his laps. Daniel Kvyat up in second place, still second off the pace. As we come up to an hour to go.
It's gone quick.
I'm going to have some pictures. Final morning of the week, of course, and then another 3 days next week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I've got Aldas with me this afternoon, 1:30 until 5. So we'll waffle on a bit more this afternoon. Poor guy's going to have to deal with my insanity before the weekend. If you're tuning in and you prefer the video content, that will return after testing, of course. Don't worry, we're only a live streaming channel for this 2 weeks. They'll be disappearing after testing. We'll be back to video content. So predictions probably before the 2020 season. I always and ah about predictions and then I end up doing them anyway, so I might as well just say I will do predictions. Some sort of preview for the season. Like I say, I said this last year, I was talking about season previews and shall I go and do it? But then I just realised I'm just reading the calendar out and the teams and the drivers. It's like you could just Google that and save yourself the time of listening to me talk crap about it. So something to do with the season.
We've got some other predictions coming up though.
Yes. Oh, is that tomorrow?
Have you forgotten?
Well, you said you're doing something tomorrow with a certain bear.
Yeah, I said it to him on Wednesday. I'd see him Saturday.
Yeah, you said that. You said to Stuart, see you Saturday. Oh, I can't wait to see the video.
Streaming does stuff to you when you do it 3 days in a row all day. It's not good for the brain. I can't remember. I'll message him later, Jonty, but I can't remember if we agreed a time.
Hopefully, Jonty doesn't have not last in the predictions this time.
A lot of Williams love again, Jonty.
Yeah, like everyone predicted you were going to win predictions, and then you ended up being last.
Tactical.
It's all mind games. You wait till destroy us this season.
Yeah, Dan will probably be at the bottom now. Jonty will be at the top.
Oh no, Dan's boring. Dan won because he was boring. At least Jonty's season you could fascinate over and be like, that would be amazing. Dan's it was like, well, that's what we got. God.
Yeah, at least Jonty was like really bold with his predictions. So
I've read all the questions properly, by the way.
Oh.
But as I said yesterday, Jonty, the thing is, I also thought I'd read all the questions properly last year.
So will you find out the other people's tomorrow?
Yes, I haven't seen them yet.
Yeah, we no one knows whose the others is. What the other people's are. no one's got a clue.
Yeah, I hope Jonty's prediction is bold as last time then.
Do you know what?
I must say that there was one question where, in capital letters, after
Don't give it away. Don't
it
give
did-
it away.
no, it did just say, "Sean, read this properly."
Sean, read the question properly. It was like, oh, thanks, mate. You've got a lot of faith in me. I won't
Is
give
that
too
what
much
every
away,
question?
obviously,
Same
but
question.
there was one question I really struggled with, and I decided to go with heart over head. So I know I'm probably wrong on that already, but at least I was bold and went for it.
Stuart's probably going to give you some stick now.
Well, if you haven't read the question properly, Christ.
But just nipping back to the track a second, Ocon
P2.
coming on to P2, only 0.6 off Bottas this time.
Oh, not bad. 62
missed
laps
that.
as well.
Just
I
put some
think it
new
was
pictures in.
I think it was on the C4s as well. I think we'll see more C5s next week and see them go for headlines. Because we haven't seen many lap times on the C5s. I might be wrong.
Oh, I need to clear these slides out before next week. I have to click the button so many times to move them to the top. There we go. To get the new ones in. Yeah, so I missed that from Ocon because I was putting the pictures in. So 17-1, 62 laps, the most running of anybody. By a fair way, 12 laps more than Carlos Sainz. Latifi, Verstappen, Strolly boy, Ocon and Bottas on track at the moment. What's Stroll done? P3, legend. Go on, Lancey boy.
And he's done another lap. PogChamp.
Steckelson did the audience questions, and I'm interested to see how you were going to cause I scratched my head a few times. Yeah. Honestly, there was one question which led into another question without giving too much away. Really, I was like, I didn't know what to do. So I went, I don't think it wasn't like crazy stupid, but it was, I probably should have been more conservative with it and just been boring, but I decided no, I refuse to be. What's Lance going to do through this middle sector? Nothing spectacular, 1.3 seconds off Bottas. He's on the C4s though, is Lance. Good stuff. Daniel Philpott, go Perez, go Stroll. Yeah. I don't know what was going on Twitter last night with you, Daniel, with regard to the GIFs. I don't know what ended up happening there and why. It just did. First Charlie boy and now Strolly boy. This is getting out of hand. Exactly. I do apologise. I'm quite defensive of Lance Stroll and I don't know why. I just am. I don't think he's that bad. He's a good egg.
Verstappen, the only one on the hard tyres at the moment, who are running on track.
Yeah, he's out there on C2. Have we seen anybody else? I think Hamilton's run the C1s. I don't know if anybody else has run them this week, but I'll have a look at that
Hamilton was
later.
C1s. Yeah, I can't see it on GP today. I can only see the red, the yellow, and the white.
If you're on their actual website, if you hover over the little tyre thing, it does come up with a little pop-up that tells you what tyre that is. I found that out yesterday.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, hold on. Oh, thanks. Thank you, Sean. Why did I only figure it out with an hour to go?
Latifi stopping on track. No.
Oh, no.
Will that be a red flag? He's right at the end of the pit lane where he's pulled over.
Is it another mechanic? Would
mechanical.
that be the second mechanical issue for Mercedes power unit? That is worrying.
I think Bottas was an electrical one, wasn't it? Or that's what they're telling us. But you've had two Ferrari problems because Raikkonen stopped yesterday.
There's no Renault
yeah.
problem, so Renault must be loving it.
Well, so yeah, Bottas's electrical issue was with a hybrid system because we saw the car in the pit lane with all the danger, don't come near us, near this little zap you to death, which is fundamentally part of the power unit.
Bottas has just stuck in a 1:15.7.
What?
Red flags out.
Point
Yeah,
3
red
off
flag.
his pole. Well, that seems a good time to bring up something that
Yeah.
a few people have sent me.
Oh, go on then.
Monster Matty Cook over on Twitter, article on F1 interview with Andrew Green, which contains the quote about the Racing Point RP20. It asked, is this a copy-paste job? I can tell you absolutely categorically, all those designs are Racing Point from absolute scratch. There has been no transfer of information on listed parts from Mercedes. They have never contemplated it. We have never asked for it. What you see on the RP20 is what people have drawn from looking at pictures of Mercedes.
Oh, God.
So it is copy. Right, so they haven't been given the direct files, they've just traced it.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Speaking of copy and paste, the person who invented the copy and paste has died this week.
Yes, he did. Age of 74.
So that's so he still survived a big life.
I tell you what, that Williams made a bit of noise when it stopped, or just before it stopped. It wasn't making noise after it stopped. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at the replays now. Oh my word, there was a bit of smoke coming out. Bottas is not far from his pole time because he set a 1:15.4, and Bottas a 1:15.7. They've already beaten testing time, surely, from last year.
I can have a look. I'm right. I've been moaning all this last 2 weeks that my PC is running slower than it has been recently. And then I went back into my 2019 season folder. It is such a mess. And I'd run slowly if things like that in my head were a mess. So that'll need sorting out before the season gets going. I need to try and find my pre-season. Where are you from last year?
I'll have a look as well. Pre-season.
Second test. So the final day of testing, fastest time was a 16.2. That's it. I'll tell you what, we'll do week 1. Day 3. And the fastest time was a 1:17.7 by Kimi Räikkönen, funnily enough, who was, yesterday, wasn't he? 1:17.7 on the C5, so a softer compound of tyre as well. And then on the final day of the first test, which is what this technically is, I don't have the time for, but yeah, we look like we're quicker than last year. But then the cars are allegedly going to be quicker this year than last year, or it's expected they will be. We're in the 17.1s last year for a lot of it. 17.7.
I'm quite shocked that Bottas has set a 1:15.7 at this part of testing.
16.2. Leclerc have got fastest so far on my little graphics from last year. Hamilton's 16.2 is in chat as well, so there you go. We are quicker. Quick run through the order, actually, for anybody just tuning in. I'll pop through any bits worth talking about. Valtteri Bottas, 15.7, 42 laps. We think quicker than last year's fastest time. Esteban Ocon, a 1:17.1, 64 laps. Good lappage and good pace as well. Testing pace, of course. Lance Stroll, 17.3, 38 laps. Daniel Kvyat, 17.4, 39 laps. Max Verstappen, 17.6, 51 laps. Confirmation overnight that Red Bull and Honda did change the power unit in Albon's car yesterday as a precaution, but still managed to do all those laps. But that was an interesting one. Alfa Romeo 1:18.0, 46 laps. Never saw what the issue is for Kimi Räikkönen yesterday, so I'll have a look in a moment. Carlos Sainz 1:18.2 for McLaren, 50 laps. Romain Grosjean a 1:18.3, 31 laps. He had his spin yesterday, no such problems today. Sebastian Vettel, 1:18.3, 40 laps for him. Stopped on track a little bit earlier as well with an engine problem. Ferrari are currently replacing that, but he will not be in the car again until this afternoon. And Nicholas Latifi, 1:19.0, 44 laps, has just literally stopped on track with some kind of issue. Didn't sound very good, like a bag of bolts. As Murray and Martin used to say, so it sounded a bit of a mess. The Bottas time, by the way, was apparently on the C5, Ocon on C4, so there we go. Keep an eye on that one. Magnussen, Norris, Ricciardo, Albon, Gasly and Hamilton all in this afternoon for their teammates. Jack Chambers, stop sending me pennies. I told you, $5,000, nothing less. All right. I got to check, actually, if we've got any donations and super chats in. Don't think we've had any in for a little while, so if you have, I do apologise. I mentioned Oz, didn't I? We've got another one from Oz. Said if we are talking about the tracks that need to go, the top 3 will be Russia, France, because it's a car park and the stripes hurt my eyes every time, and Barcelona because it's used for testing. I wouldn't be sad to see any three of them go, to be honest, Oz. Thank you for your contribution. And I also wouldn't be overly bothered if Hungary wanted to bog off and they took Abu Dhabi with them, to be honest. But there you go. Trouble is, what do you replace them with? Plenty of great tracks around the world. They just don't ever seem to want to go to them. They just want to keep going to street tracks like Hanoi, which could be brilliant. I'm quite looking forward to Vietnam, but I do, even if they're just street tracks, I still look forward to new races because it's a complete unknown. Apart from any simulator work the teams have done, they know nothing about the track. I think Zandvoort are holding off information as well on the track, so I'm looking forward to seeing how these cars cope at those. It's going to be good. It'll be good stuff. But yes. Zero X Fusion, welcome back again. Thank you for coming along. I hate Valencia. No, I do not want it back. Also, the state of that track, it's unbelievable. It's like a post-apocalyptic. Looking at pictures again last night. Post-apocalyptic state. But yeah, no thanks.
All out F1.
Oh yes, please. There's probably a mod. There's probably a mod for that.
Valencia's awful. Like, I don't see why people like that track. It's just horrible to drive, and yeah.
Yeah. Are you guys all right to hold the stream for a minute? I thought I was going to be able to get to 12, but my head is absolutely throbbing. I need to go take some headache tablets for some reason. So if you could, all right to hold the stream for a couple of minutes with chat?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Awesome. I'll be as quick as I can. I just need to run downstairs quick.
Anderson in chat saying the old version of Hockenheim, we all loved the old version of Hockenheim. Even though you can argue it wasn't the most exciting of tracks, it was fairly bland. But it always resulted in epic racing. It really did. The amount of slipstream they got when it went out into the off curve.
Yeah. I know in the Project Cars 2 game they have the classic Hockenheim track available, and it just feels so nice to drive, and like the way they built it was great. Yeah, I enjoyed that a lot. And I think it was 2002 they made changes to it, or it might be 2001. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was around that time. But it's funny how you get to try some of these old tracks on the games. I think it was on Assetto Corsa. Took the 2011 or 2012 Lotus Renault F1 car around the pre-66 Monza, which is the full loop including the oval. And you don't have to brake. Ever.
Feels
Literally
great.
flat out the entire lap.
I just wish the
You could never have
F1
something
games.
like that 'cause it would just explode.
Yeah. I just wish the F1 games now have classic tracks. They got classic cars. Why don't they bring the classic tracks in as well? Like the ones that we loved in the past. I mean, that would be insane.
But I'm still itching for someone to do a proper F1 Legends game.
Yes.
With the explosion of F1 and esports, it would be so much better from an esports perspective when they're running around in old Lotus 25s and Cooper Climaxes, where it's all about controlling the car, pure driver skill. They would be something, that would really make esports super exciting to watch.
Yeah, my dad.
F1 isn't great for it.
So yeah, sorry. My dad had a Grand Prix Legends, I think, and I had a go at that as well.
Ah, the old F1 Legends. That's a cracking game.
Yeah, I think that's how I got introduced to F1 games, was Grand Prix Legends. Also, I think I told Stuart about this as well. Remember Midtown Madness? That was my first ever racing game when I used to play on the joysticks. That was quite fun. So
yeah, you have to go quite a bit earlier for me, and I think I'm probably earlier than everyone in the chat as well.
Yeah.
First ever racing game. There was a little motocross game on the Spectrum. First one that was really good though was probably Super Monaco GP on the Mega Drive.
Yes. Someone asked a question: due to the evolution of the times we're seeing in testing, will we see a sub 1 minute lap in Austria? maybe.
Close. What was the time last year?
I think it was. I can't remember. I'm gonna have a look now, but I think it's not going to be that much of an improvement because obviously the Spanish Grand Prix tires is most likely going to be the C3s are going to be the softest tire, so they won't be any C4s. I don't think unless Pirelli change it again. So I don't think it's going to be much of a change. Quali a 103.003 was the fastest time, and that was set by Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, we won't be seeing that.
Nah.
They're not going to shave off 3 seconds.
No, I don't think so. And 2021, I don't think we'll see it either. So, but
Yeah,
I
because it's
forgot.
looking highly likely that the cars will be a little bit slower.
Yeah, I forgot who asked that question. Actually, I can't remember, but I did see it in chat.
I was just going to say what you said there, John T. Jumping back in, this will be the last year that we see the potential for these lap times to get beaten, these track records, because next year it's going to be 2, 3, 4 seconds a lap slower. Some reckon, don't they? So
yeah.
But then I seem to recall, with these new regulation changes we got last year, cars are going to be 2 seconds a lap slower. Not quite as drastic as we're getting in 21, but they were definitely quicker.
We can't compare testing then to this year, next year, if the cars are slower then. So we won't see, oh, there's people sandbagging because we won't know.
Just easier than typing it, Jack. The message you've sent me on Discord. I tried that yesterday, mate, and it genuinely wouldn't let me do it. So I think we might have to wait for it to clear, and then I'll have to send you it back. But because they take a fee, that's going to cost you about 60 quid, mate, unfortunately.
Yeah,
It was an expensive joke, but, it's better than losing the other 2,940 quid.
Oh, God. How does he have that money? Oh, jeez. I'm not good at saving money.
So secretly, there's a massive reject button next to it. And I'm like, no, I'm keeping it. I would never do that. I wouldn't do that. I think I'd do that to anybody. I certainly wouldn't do it to Jack. He's a good egg. Plus, he was my sort of camera dude at Autosport. So,
Yeah.
He was working.
Yeah. Seb stopped due to an engine issue, for James, for those of you that are wondering. And he's not running until this afternoon, and they're putting it in another power unit in.
There is a contribution just updated on PayPal. Thank you very much to, is it Kaylin or Kalen? Said Albert Park, as it is, was built for the Grand Prix. I grew up in walking distance from it, and before F1 it was pretty barren. If it needs to change, it absolutely can, regardless of people kicking up a fuss. The drama would be the question of who is expected to pay for it. If FOM or Liberty want the government to upset a bunch of voters and pay for the changes and still pay for hosting fees, then it won't be happening. That's a very good point. The governments aren't going to pay an absolute fortune, are they, in upsetting people, and then. Yeah, no, I totally get the point you're making. It'd be nice to see the changes. I think because, their tagline is a great place for the race, isn't it? Is Melbourne, Albert Park, but it is. It always feels. I think it would be weird now if we didn't have the Australian Grand Prix.
Yeah, we've got to have it every year.
It would be wrong not to be there. So I love that starts the season. 0x, couldn't you send the money back to Jack, not decline it? And if you choose send to a friend, there is no charge. I'll try. I've got to wait for it to clear first. It'll take 5 to 7 days, I reckon, for that to clear. And then I'll send it back to him, not as a business payment or whatever, or for a thing. I will just send him it as a friend. And if there is a charge, then I don't know after that. But yeah, I will get that money back to him one way or another if I have to put it in my bank, withdraw it, and go and hand it to him in cash. Actually, Jack, that's maybe not a bad idea, mate. Then we can go for a pint. Or, given that I'm handing over £2,900 you can buy the drinks and we'll have multiple pints.
Drink for one, Jack.
That's the worst case scenario, mate, is I'll just come down to Derby and bring it in cash. There you go.
Well, whilst we're talking, green flag has been going for like 5 or 6 minutes now.
Yeah.
So there's laps that are going now.
Although, Jack, I think you need to move to Lincoln, mate. Come on, get your butt up here. Bottas, Ocon, Stroll, Kvyat, Verstappen, Giovinazzi, Sainz, Grosjean, Vettel, Latifi as your top 10 because there's only 10 drivers out, obviously, 10 teams. Verstappen completing some more laps. Who's done the most? Is it still Ocon? It is indeed. I think that's good for Renault because, like I said, they had some issues with the floor yesterday, which sort of hampered their running a bit, and they were the only team not to go over 100. So it's 68 laps so far for Ocon. You would assume that
They fixed it?
well, they fixed that, yeah. But I was just going to say, you would assume Danny Rick would be able to get at least 42 laps in this afternoon, assuming Ocon did no more. So through 100 would be good. I'm not in Notts Grace, Lord. I'm in Lincolnshire, in Lincoln. Yeah, there you go.
You're all from
Exciting
Midlands or North. I'm from the South.
From the south. But yeah, somebody asked a question, and I literally was just about to say it, and it's gone completely out of my head.
Just like
where
what
are
happened
you?
earlier.
Findlay wants to know if we can have a flag graphic. I could, but you'd be relying on me to turn it on and off as I need to. So I could do, but it might be that the red flag's up there for like 3 hours and actually the session's been fine. But yeah, you'd have to remind me to keep taking it off. Nikhil, is Mercedes using DAS or DAS today? I
did see Bottas use it for a bit.
We've not seen as much on board with Bottas as I'd like today, given the system. Just going to watch the Red Bull, see if they've already sorted. Nope, they've not got it on the car yet. Not since yesterday. He has been from earlier on, but I haven't seen anything recently. I would assume so.
Yeah, I did see him, like, before we went live. I did see him use it, because I think they were talking about it.
The Zandvoort banking would be rad to watch. Completely agree. I'm very much looking forward to seeing the cars go around that banking. Not the 180-degree banking that somebody was suggesting it should be yesterday. But yeah, it's been a really
180-degree banking. That would make it upside down.
Oh yeah, that's what somebody was suggesting, that they should run at 180 degrees. They've always said they used to say that you could run an F1 car upside down in a tunnel. Let's give it a go. That was the claim. There's a video on YouTube, isn't there, that makes some bold claims about F1 cars, and I think you put a comment in there that like literally everything in it is wrong.
Oh, don't get me started on that. I think it's a channel like that.
I'd never claim my content's always right, because it isn't, but yeah. That's quite an amusing video. It looks like we're going to get a pit stop from Red Bull. In for a change of tyres. He's going on to the hard, so we'll have to stop again. No, that's the racing shot. Wow, you need to practice that. Left front wheel, man. Totally missed. So you'll need to try that again. Is it a guest? Maybe? But a proper pit stop there from Red Bull. That needs a bit of work before Australia.
Yeah.
Nice. Shiny tyres as well.
Guessing there's ones I haven't used, and I'm guessing they want to keep that record for being the fastest pit stop of the season.
I was just saying about the shiny tyres because somebody asked me the other day, totally missed that with the front wheel gun. Somebody was asking me the other day that they didn't have the shiny tyres in all the renders and the shots of the car when they launched them. So had Pirelli changed their process, but can confirm now no, because he's running. Was there a lockup for Max? What are we looking at here? Is he just going to get it a bit sideways? We're on board with Max, so I'm assuming we're going to see something. It might be nothing. He might just be showing us some nice onboard. He's going to come up behind a slower car through turn 9.
I've noticed that pit stop they weren't taking it seriously, because obviously they weren't rushing it. They were just doing it like an F2 pit stop by the sound of it.
They don't need to rush, do they?
No, he's only testing.
Take it easy. But yeah, we're just on board with Max there, I think, for no reason really, other than why not. But yeah, indeed. Still can't get used to that narrow nose on the Red Bull, by the way.
Yeah, it's very different to what we're used to.
Findlay in chat. Paul Das Rester.
Oh, God.
Grace Lord is nearly 15,000 kilometres from Lincoln. You're the lucky one. 35 minutes to go. Bottas still fastest with the fastest time in testing so far, comfortably at 1:15.7. I like the narrow noses, Snow Leopard, but it just doesn't look right on the Red Bull for some reason, especially with that Darth Vader stub.
Getting the Star Wars reference in there, Sean.
Liam says, "Hey, at least Lincoln isn't Boston. I lived in Boston, mate, for 6 or 7 years. Can confirm Lincoln better."
Ooh, a strong claim.
No, I think most people from Boston would agree that Lincoln's better, to be fair.
Oh no, I just realised this afternoon when you're going to have your guest on. What, the last 3 letters?
Oh, for God's sake. I'm going to message him and tell him he can't come on now.
Oh God, just warn him about the joke, please.
I'm going to put it in Discord for him.
Just tell him to be aware, please. Oh God, why did we only realise that now?
Thank you very much, everyone, for ruining my afternoon.
You're gonna ruin my afternoon. I'll be watching the stream.
Yes, Al dual axis steering will be with us this afternoon. That's how I'm introducing him. I've got to do. Thank you, chat. I love you.
That's awesome.
Leclerc is not running today. No, who's just asked me that? I'll do shout outs while I'm doing it as well.
Frank Pizzo.
Pizzo. Yeah, that was an accent. Apologies immediately. Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
Poor Aldas. He's finished now. That's it, isn't it? That's the final straw for him. He's done.
Oh God, and he's doing Fridays, not just today, but next Friday as well. Next Friday afternoon.
Thank you very much to Sim Racing Setups on Twitter
Yeah,
for
me
sharing
too.
the stream. Said listening to insightful and entertaining. That's twice I've been called insightful in a week. Christ. I'm growing. Some pictures from Zandvoort. Thank you very much. Over on Twitter. It does look nice, isn't it? Nice resurfacing going on, the banking. Can't wait to see that. I hope it's... A lot of people sceptical that this isn't going to be good, John T, for racing this track, but I really hope we're wrong and it does end up being like proper old school. At the old Zandvoort.
It remains to be seen because of what they're going to do. There are some areas having runoffs added. Great. But it's got the look of an old school track. It's got proper undulation and it's literally just plonked in the middle of acres and acres of sand dunes. I don't know if anyone's been watching the sort of the drone camera videos that have been going out showing the progress of it. It's fantastic.
Is the track ready for
Pretty much,
for
I
this?
think.
All right.
I think it's one of those. It was basically ready. They just needed to resurface in a few tweaks. But on the picture I've got on Twitter here, as people are saying in chat, there is gravel traps still there. I was worried they were just going to pave over it all. But like you've sort of got turn 1 still all gravel. And then you come through that first little sequence of corners. And then sort of they've got like a patch of tarmac running around the outside of that corner. But there's still gravel after that. Whether that stays or not is another matter, but that's the sort of thing I'm happy with. A mix of both, so that they've kind of got the safety element that they want from the tarmac, but they've still got what fans are screaming for. There's still that punishment there if they go too far over the white line. Well, they'd have to go pretty far over that white line, to be fair, to hit the gravel, but it's there if they make a mistake, so that's good. That's all we want. It's not about, it's not the whole rose-tinted spectacles, things were better in the old days. It is just... If you have a gravel trap there and a driver makes a mistake, they are punished for making that mistake. They can't just keep going at speed because it's tarmac. That's what we want to see. Good point from Steckleton. Sorry, Jonty, you're like this. Says, correct me if I'm wrong, but weren't you only called informative or insightful when Jonty was on? Maybe there is a connection there. Thanks, Steckleton. Love you too. So there you go, Jonty.
Comment.
I just talk crap. I'm quite happy doing that. Jonty can be the brains of this operation, which actually is quite concerning in itself.
Oh God.
No offence, mate.
Yeah, it is.
What we got going on? Lando Norris taking something off his mirror there and throwing it onto the track. A bit of debris, maybe. A bit of Grosjean's car from yesterday, perhaps.
A lot of
On the
people doing long
C2.
runs. A lot of people doing long runs because quite a few people are on the hards, which is Sainz, Verstappen, and Kvyat,
We've only got 3 on track at the moment.
which is M3.
Yeah.
Oh, and Ocon. Ocon's on the track too.
I think it's Ocon, Verstappen, and Sainz, isn't it?
No, Kvyat's on the track.
Okay.
According to GP Today. Or they might have not updated, I don't know.
The
but-
timing tower on telly says he's not, but that doesn't mean he isn't. That because the graphics on TV have been a bit all over the place as well this week. But it's testing; they're trying stuff out too. It's testing for them as well. It's
They even
fine.
said Ricardo and Ocon were in McLarens at one point.
The track was finished yesterday, apparently, according to Easy Made. Dan the Indoor Man says the puns have been fantastic.
Nice.
We've got a whole year of this.
Oh god. Whoever started that
I'm
whole
such a
gas
good one.
issue, thanks a lot. This is gonna
Yeah,
get
Merc.
interesting. Yeah, Mercedes. Get with the times.
Go on, John. See what we're going to say.
I'm a sucker for a pun. Everyone should know that by now if they follow me on Twitter. Can't resist any opportunity.
Doubled another season. Oh god.
We're watching. Just going to watch Lando here. He did something. There's a little bit of something, debris or whatever, on his left wing mirror, and he just reaches over halfway around a bloody corner, one-handed, and chucks it off. Yeah. That McLaren, that livery is so nice on board. And I'm sorry, again, in the minority, I like the orange halo as some Flovis goes on the front of
It's good.
Bottas's Mercedes.
Watching McLaren on board and looks very stable. At the times haven't been particularly fast or slow, but it looks really easily drivable. Which could really reap some rewards from McLaren this year.
Tidy car as well, isn't it? It looks tidy. The drivers are happy with it. They're not overly confident. They're being realistic. They're sort of doing what they did last year, but hopefully they've got a good car to back it up like they did in 2019. So I feel like they're on the way back. There was a point where, and I think I said it to Aldas in a chat on Discord actually, that I didn't think McLaren would ever win a title again. And whilst I still think they are a very, 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 very long way away from achieving that, they definitely do feel like they're on the road back, don't they? So it's a long road, though, when you've struggled like they have. Why is Torchwood trending? Don't you dare do this to me.
What is
Oh, they're
What?
available on iPlayer. Yes. Sorry.
Oh god, is it? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna
All
look now.
episodes.
I'm gonna look now and see if it's actually Sean is actually not lying.
Do you think it was awful,
awful.
John-C?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You had some episodes where it was basically
Oh my god, it is.
a vaguely dramatic musical, and then other episodes where it was like dark end of the world, really gritty.
Season 1 and season 2. Ah! Oh god. Right, enough about that.
We're only seeing 2 seasons worth, though.
Yeah, and there's I think the specials there as well. Children of Earth and Miracle Day.
That's me sorted for the weekend, then. Get
That's
away
you.
from F1 for a bit.
This week you're
Um,
binge watching Torchwood. Next week, Drive to Survive. That's your weekend sorted.
It is. Doctor Who this Sunday as well, while we're geeking out again, John-C. Part 1 of the season finale.
The other problem with Torchwood is the fact that any mention of Captain Jack confuses my gaming brain because it just makes me want to play DDR.
Who just asked me a
Bottas
question
now on
about Ocon?
C3s.
Where is he? Is Ocon showing any consistency? Matthew Smith. Let's have a look, Matthew Smith. That's a fair question. Lewis is watching us while he's playing on his game. I don't know what game that is. Don't ask me, Lewis. Let's go have a look at
Project Cars?
F1. What were they called? F1 debrief, weren't they? See what Ocon's doing. Excuse me. Ocon on C4. This was about 26 minutes ago. I'll cut out the cooldown laps because obviously they split them up. But 117.1, 117.9 and 119.8. Then the red flag came out and dumped all over his run there. Let's see if we've got anything earlier in the day from Ocon. There we go. Look, C3 run for about an hour ago. 17.5, 18.6, 19.1, 18.9, 19.4, 19.5, a 20 flat and then 19.9. So again, like I said earlier, not as consistent as Bottas was the other day, delivering pretty much identical times for a while, but I'd say that's relatively in the right ballpark. 17.5 was pretty decent, and 18. Was that his fastest? No, he's on 17.1 since, hasn't he? 18.6, 19.1. Yeah, all right. I'm positive about Esteban this year. I think he's got a point to prove, and I think that could really give him a bit of a boost. I don't think he deserves the stick he gets.
No.
But I think he gets the stick from a certain portion of the fan base because of what happened in Brazil and that. So, but yeah, that's whatever. But I think Ocon will do all right this year.
Yeah, I think Ocon has benefited from a year at Mercedes because he's learnt from a top team. He's still got some simulator work, and there was an article that said that it was a lot more hard work as well than he thought. So I think what he's learned at Merck is probably going to help him at Renault.
Aldas not impressed.
Yeah, I just seen the Discord.
I never watched Merlin, just watching Jonty chatting in chat. Obviously, that's what chat's for, but I've not watched Merlin. So Bottas, but on the C5. He was on the C5. There was some confusion earlier about maybe it was a C4, but it was definitely C5 because my timing thing went purple. So yes. Steckleton agrees with you. Jess says, look how good Ferrari was for Kvyat. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sometimes a year away can be detrimental because drivers can be easily forgotten and people move on. But at the same time, that year for Kvyat at Ferrari, he went away, Kvyat could have easily come out bitching and moaning about all that at Red Bull, but he didn't. He got the drive at Ferrari as reserve role and development and simulator work and all of that. He got his head down, got on with it, got his chance again, and delivered. I think it's fair to say absolutely delivered when he got back in that Toro Rosso as they were. And Ocon might do the same this year. And I hope he does.
And we're going to get a similar situation maybe for Kubica, because he's reserved for Alfa now, Alfa Romeo. So if Alfa are seeing him doing well at the team and gelling into the team, if Gio doesn't do well, maybe it could be a really tough decision on whether it'll be Kubica or the likes of Mick, Schwartzman, or Schumacher. Or Ilott, sorry. I said Schumacher twice.
Out of those, at the moment, Schwarzman's going to be the top pick.
Yeah. And I just found something, speaking of young drivers, the F3 championship contender, Jehan Javala, is now Red Bull Junior.
Yes, and he's announced this morning that he's got an F2 drive with Carlin.
Wow, that's going to be decent.
Whoever was asked about Ocon earlier, he's just done another stint as F1 Debrief on Twitter. 17.2, 17.7, and then we've got 19.1 and 19.9, then a couple of 120s, and then a 121.3 and a 22.5. The way those times are going, 17.2, 17.7, then 2.19s and 2.20s, I think there's obviously something they're doing stint-wise there, so consistent in that sense. But yeah, I'm positive for him this year. But there's quite some interesting and actually some pretty good names. I'll have a look and see if I can find it. But there's actually some really interesting names, sorry everyone, in the Formula E rookie test that have been confirmed.
Oh yeah, Jamie Chadwick, I think at one point, and there was someone else which I've seen on Twitter. That's quite good.
So we've got the ones that I spotted. So Lucas Ora, as I pronounce it, Nick Cassidy, Joel Eriksson, Jake Hughes, Jan Mardenborough, a name I know. I don't really know if he's that good or not. You got Jamie Chadwick, and then you got Arthur Leclerc, which which will be interesting. Alice Powell getting a run out as well. A couple of seats still to confirm there. So, yeah, some interesting names.
got a
Arthur Leclerc going out
question.
to Venturi.
Is the rookie test? Is it kind of like testing in a way?
A bit like the Abu Dhabi tyre test, but they put a bit more fuss into it, Formula E do.
Do they rate the rookies and stuff more?
I'm not sure if they rate them more.
As in, no, I mean, do they judge them more? Like, do they? As in,
I'm not sure really. I think they cover it more. You hear more about it, whereas F1 tyre. I think the problem with F1 is it's a 22-21 race season, so by the time you get to after Abu Dhabi, nobody gives a damn about the tyre test really and who's doing what. Whereas Formula E is a shorter season, so they can, I suppose, drive some interest. But it's just about getting them in those cars and see, because there's quite a big pool of drivers out there. F1 says Sean, hosting the F1 word, who loves F1. It's not the be-all and end-all, is it? There are so many other series out there and so much talent. It's just nice to see people getting rookie tests and that. So it'd be good to see what Jamie Chadwick can do. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, speaking of other series as well, the F2 grid, it's looking really good this year. I mean, we got quite strong rookies. We've got Armstrong and Schwartzman. We've also got possibly Schumacher in the fight as well. I mean, it's going to be I think it's going to be a good year, I think, because I think we could see another 2017, 2018 situation where a rookie can absolutely win the championship.
Yeah, the F2 grid looks amazing.
Sorry, John.
Yeah.
I was just say Ocon's car in a few bits at the minute, so they're looking at something on that Renault. Floor's still on though because the doors are open, so
Right,
F2 grid looks good.
Yeah, I think, and also Jamie's done the right thing to not go into F3 and staying in W Series. I think because obviously license points are now on offer. Not a lot, but I think it's not going to be easy for her to retain that title because like Alice Powell, she's hungry for it. I can see her challenge for the title, and I think a lot of other people as well. And we've got a lot of new faces there, so it's not going to be easy for Jamie Chadwick. I can tell you that.
I didn't watch much of W Series last year. I kind of regret that, to be honest.
I watched towards the end, I think, more than the beginning.
I watched all of it, and it was just super close racing, which is exactly what you expect from F3.
Yeah, I think there was one moment. Sorry, carry on.
No, go on.
I think there was one moment where the green flag was waved too early, and there was a car that stalled or something.
Yeah, that was a little bit messy and didn't do him many favours, but
No.
when they were actually racing on track, it was proper wheel-to-wheel stuff, which is exactly what we all want to see. I think deep down, most of us don't really care what speed it's at, as long as it's competitive.
Yeah.
So, your grid, I'll just read the drivers, not the teams. But your grid for F2, you've got Sean Gallale and Dan Ticktum. What a start. You've got Zhu or Joe, Callum Ilott, go on Cal, Marcus Armstrong, Christian Lundgaard, Sonoda, Daruvala, Aitken, Samaya, Delatraz, PK, Matsushita, Dragovic, Markolov, Alesi, Schumacher and Schwartzman. That is a team and a half, by the way. That for me, Jonty, that Prema one, I think I said it to you at the time, that's a shootout for an Alpha seat if ever I've seen one. I think that's it, though. To be announced. And then we've got Mazepin and Giotto.
I would say the Prima lineup they got is huge. Schumacher's had a year in F2. If he does well this year, I'm almost certain that it's going to be a shootout between him and Giovinazzi for the F1 seat next year.
I was just reading, somebody mentioned Ayrton Simmons in chat there. Thumbs up for that.
Ayrton Simmons?
Keep an eye on him.
It's quite obvious where his name came from, don't you think?
Yeah.
The Sims.
Oh.
His first name.
Oh, right. Oh, Fusion said a question. Because the winner of F2 cannot compete in the championship the next year, do you feel like the winner deserves a guaranteed spot in F1 the next year, or at least a higher seat somewhere else?
Yeah, that's always been a problem with GP2, F2. With there being cars there than there are seats in F1, and length of time the careers are lasting in F1 now. It's very harsh on someone who's done the work to get to that point and there's just no seat available.
Well, I think Nick de Vries, is happy in Formula E. At least he's got a seat somewhere. But we're talking about people that, if it comes to the end of a season, they don't have a seat, what are they going to do for a year? They can't go to F2. So they might just end up having to be a reserve driver or something. I remember, I think it was Gasly that got called up a few races before the end or something in Toro Rosso. Nah, AlphaTauri.
I feel like we lose a lot of talent from F2 because the winner can't always find a race seat somewhere.
Yeah, the last, I think 2017 and 18 were lucky. Both of the winners were in F1. Whereas 2019, only Latifi went into F1 due to the fact that 3 rookies from the previous year actually went to F1.
I feel Nick de Vries made the right call last year.
Yeah.
By going to Formula E, because at least he's out racing in a competitive series somewhere rather than just being a reserve driver. But
he's not doing too bad. He's not doing too bad.
He'll get there. It's a hard thing to learn Formula E. It's totally different to what he's used to. But I was just going to say, I think we discussed this in a stream last year, Jonty. Maybe it was one of these testing streams. The idea of it's a shame that there isn't a way to have like a spec Formula One car with a Cosworth engine or something that is run by Formula One to let the winners of F2 race there. But then the problem with that is sort of like a promotion. So you win F2 and you get into that car, and all right, it might be the back of the grid, a year-old chassis, year-old engine, whatever, but at least you're on the grid. The problem then is you've just got a slow team driving around at the back because they're not competitive, but then you've also got, if that team goes out and conveniently wins a race with a very dodgy call by a steward, all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's an FIA control team, and look, it's gone and won it was just can of worms everywhere. It'd be as simple as that. It would be such a mess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can look at it in various ways. Could there be... Is there call for another series in the middle? Some way. The other issue is that the F1 cars have constantly got so much faster and faster and more technical, whereas the F3 cars and the F2 cars have kind of stayed around the same area. You know, GP2, what was Formula 3000, they haven't advanced in speed and complexity as much as F1 has. So now the gap between them is even bigger. So they're having to jump up without learning as much, if you get me.
Yeah.
But then you've got all the carbon footprint issues and etc. And all the names are taken up. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1.5 is jokingly applied to the midfield of F1. You know, what would you...
Formula Zero? That doesn't work, does it, at all?
Formula Advance?
F2.5? F2 and a bit?
No. F1, no, we already got that. Yeah, Leclerc won 2017, Russell 2018, yeah. That's who I was referring to.
Somebody in chat saying that the winners between Hamilton and Leclerc didn't really deliver, and that's maybe why they didn't get that chance. But when you look at the likes of Giorgio Pantano, Pastor Maldonado, Davide Valsecchi, bless him, I'd agree. But then you're looking at Nico Hülkenberg.
I would say
He
Hülkenberg
did get into F1, but Rogue and of course, 2015 champion, the greatest driver that's ever lived, Stoffel Van Dorn. So don't tell me that they've never delivered. I'm not having that. And Gasly in 2016.
Technically, Van Dorn is still in F1 because he is a reserve driver for Merck now.
Yeah, true.
Technically. So I'm guessing that helped with the partnership that he is with the Formula E team, because obviously Formula E team is Merck. He's with Merck, so.
Yeah, and Alex Whipday points out that the problem with F2 is if the winner stays on, then there's less spaces for F3 drivers. The problem that there is in F1
Will be the
cascades
same,
downwards.
yeah. So I think
But
that's
you're right
why
mentioning some of those drivers. Fabio
Oh.
Lima, what happened to him?
Oh, a lot of people saying Palmer. Oh, we forgot about him. I would say Palmer is brilliant at a pundit. Like you were saying yesterday, he's brilliant in pundit. Absolutely fantastic. Just not a good driver.
Looking through the names that we've had in GP2 and that, it's amazing. I think it was just pointed out in chat that those that are still around versus those that aren't, I'd take, and not just because I'm clearly massively biased. And also, by the way, it took me nearly the whole stream before I mentioned him, but I would say that I'd take Van Dorn now and previously over Grosjean or Maldonado or Glock.
Oh yeah, Glock. The ones that were in F1, I got it. It was oh my god, there's quite a lot. There's Bianchi, Bremy, Chandok, Chilton, Ambrosio, Lucas. Oh no, that was Formula E.
Big.
Ericsson, Gasly, Giovinazzi, Glock, Grosjean, Gutierrez. I think he was in Sauber. Hamilton, obviously. Hartley, Harriento, Kobayashi, Kovalainen. Oh, I forgot about him. Hulkenberg, Maldonado, Nakajima, Nazar, Perez, Palmer, Petrov, Pig, PK Jr. No, that didn't count because that's the Bruno Senna and Sorokin. Sorokin. Oh god.
Don't
Wow,
you laugh at Sorokin.
That's not champions. That's ones that were in F2 that got graduated into F1.
Fastest time from testing last year, somebody asked, was a 16.2 from Sebastian Vettel. C5 on test 2, day 4. 534 laps in total for Seb, that test as well. So yeah, 16.2. So we're well past that now. A little indication that these cars are going to be quicker this year. It is only testing, of course, but we can only compare to last year's testing times.
Yeah, they only have 3 tyres in the race, where 3 types of tyres in the race, whereas in testing they have 5. So, yeah, take these times with a pinch of salt, guys.
Slowest time was Gasly, 17. No, that's his quickest time. Sorry, I apologise. Gasly's quickest time was 17.0. What are they doing?
Williams were the slowest.
17.4. Williams' fastest time isn't even on that list. That's how slow they were. They couldn't even make the bloody list.
No, 190. Was it 118? Wasn't it?
118.130 from George Russ.
Yeah, and even Latifi has beat that twice. Once on Wednesday, once on Friday.
We have more talk of things.
Oh, lovely.
Rachel Brooks, Johnny Herbert have been out listening to all Mercedes-powered cars. The very audible hydraulic noise from the Mercedes engines on corner exit.
I'm a bit worried that Racing Point might have an engine issue, because obviously we saw Williams and Merck having engine issues. Will Racing Point have the same thing?
I'm still here. I'm just listening to Will Buxton now talk about budgets and what they're going to include in the 2021 stuff for marketing budget. Is suspension considered marketing budget? This is what we were talking about earlier, wasn't it, John C? The way they'll get around it. But yeah. Let's see what's going on. I'm going to take some super chats. I'll do a rundown in a minute and then we'll be wrapping the stream up. Don't forget, back this afternoon. If my head ever calms down, Jesus Christ. Ugh. My head is like properly throbbing for some reason. I think just staring at a screen all week is not a very good thing. But yes, hopefully be all right this afternoon. Go lie down for half an hour, have a biscuit. But yeah, All super chats appear to be up to date. So thank you to everyone for your contributions. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to join us for the afternoon. I've got Aldas with me this afternoon. That's going to do his bloody head in, and I'm going to really annoy him with it. And back again next week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Right, what's happening next week? Stuart, Chainbear, and Dan F1/E reviews on Wednesday. Stuart, and then I've got, God help me, Jordan and Mike on Thursday afternoon, and then it's Stuart and Aldas next Friday as well. So there we go. Loads still to come.
Stuart every morning next week. Aren't you lucky?
Jordan and Mike's going to be mental in it, John T. What have I done?
Come on, we struggle to understand Jordan at times.
Yeah, cool. Can do it. I'm probably going to have to introduce him.
How's he going to cope?
Well, I'm just going to have to say at the start of the stream when I introduce him, don't worry, guys, if you can't understand Jordan, nobody can. Just let him talk and then we'll talk to somebody who can speak English. I'm joking. Oh, he's going to hate me now, isn't he?
He's
couple of
probably
questions.
listening in chat. Oh, God.
Imagine Ericsson coming back to F1, rather see Grosjean for the lols. I'd love to see Ericsson back. Williams will take him if they need the money. Russell was dead on consistent. He was indeed. Matthew Smith, who we talked about last year, he was very consistent last year, all season actually, to be fair to him. Is FE Super Formula are the go-between for F2 grads, says Ian McKinnon. Thank you very much for your contribution. Good point. Like I said earlier, F1 and that isn't the be-all and end-all, is it, Ian? It's, you can... There's plenty of series out there where you can drive, and there's a lot of talent out there as well. So as an F1 fan, it sometimes feels like a driver disappears and that's it, but there's so many places they can race, so they'll find somewhere. Fabio Lima, last race in 2017, to answer your question, John T, won the Ferrari Challenge World Final. There you go. And one more. He's just disappeared now. There was somebody else said something yesterday about erotic stuff that drivers have done since leaving, but we'll not get back into that one. And one more before we start to wrap things up. F1 could use last year's championship winning car for the top two in F2 to jump into F1 from 2022. Possibly. Then you're risking a two-tier F2. That's the only trouble. But it might be, if you're going to give these champions the opportunity to stay in F2, then you're probably going to have to do something like that. So totally understandable. Let's quickly go through the times there before we wrap things up. 3 minutes to go. Looks like Sky are finishing off. So Bottas, fastest time of the day and fastest time of testing so far, and is faster than the fastest time of testing last year. Oh, he's quick. That's all you need to know. 1:15.732, 65 laps this morning. Fewer than he did yesterday, 70 odd I think it was, or day before, whenever he was. Esteban Ocon second, a 1:17.176 laps for him. Lance Stroll, 1:17.352 laps. Danny Kvyat, a 1:17.4 on 59 laps. No offence to Bottas, but if you drop the Merc from that top three, that's an exciting Australian Grand Prix. Anyway, Max Verstappen, 1:17.6, 85 laps for Max, quietly getting on with it out there. Antonio Giovinazzi, 1:18.065. Sainz has done a 1:18.2, 73 laps. Romain Grosjean has done a 1:18.3 on 48 laps. Sebastian Vettel, 1:18.3, mixed morning, 40 laps on the board. Getting on with what they needed to get on with this week. Ferrari just on about mileage, that's what they said before the session. But he stopped out on track with an engine issue, and Ferrari are frantically, or as frantic as they are in testing, trying to change the engine between, well, now and the afternoon session. So he stopped with it must be a couple of hours to go that he's lost out on in this session. So not great for a guy who, of course, missed the first day, not feeling too well. So hopefully they'll get him out pretty quickly this afternoon. Nicholas Latifi, 1:19.0, final time of the day, 44 laps on the board. He also stopped on track with some kind of mechanical issue, and I'm going to say mechanical issue really slowly whilst I just go and check and see if Williams, this is brilliant coverage, if Williams has said anything.
Williams. I follow Williams. I
loses drive and comes to a halt at the end of the pit straight. We'll get the FW43 back to the garage shortly and investigate. So we'll see what happens with Williams. So yes, not great for Latifi, but he was good to that point, and not great for Vettel either. But again, 40 laps on the board. Let's see what happens this afternoon. Magnussen. Oh, right, there we go. Where's my list? Magnussen, Norris, Ricciardo, Albon, Gasly and Hamilton all apparently in the car this afternoon. So they'll be in for Grosjean, Sainz, Ocon, Albers race for Red Bull now, so Verstappen, Kvyat, and of course Bottas. So there we go. Lovely stuff. 40 seconds to go. I'll wait for the flag. And then we'll wrap things
The
up.
way Sky don't.
Yeah, Sky's done.
This annoys me so much, Jonty.
It does.
It's 40 seconds. I get it. All right. But come on. Just wait. Even if they just literally just leave the coverage until the flag drops. Just, even I wait. I could stop streaming now for 10 seconds. No one's going to... You watch. Go on. One driver stick in a 112.6 and make Sky look stupid. Go on, Latifi. No. That is the checkered flag, though. See, that I've just waffled for 40 seconds. Sky could have done that. I've waffled for 3.5 hours. But that's it for the morning session. Massive thank you, Jess. It was great to have you on. Good stuff. Thanks for all your chats, and thanks for putting up with my waffle as well. So yes, thank you very much, Jess.
You're welcome. I've really enjoyed it, and I hope to be involved with more of your stuff in the future. And make sure you all watch this afternoon stream, because I'm definitely still going to be watching whilst I'm doing some other stuff. So
Yeah, you better be. I listen to you on the radio on a morning.
yeah, no, don't worry, I will be. I can't not be, because it's entertaining. So
awesome, thank you, Jess, and of course, thank you to you as well, John. To your last one, you're back at work next week, man. That sucks. Oh, you suck, man. That's not good enough.
we're both
Yeah,
at work
it does,
next week.
but I'll be listening.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, I'll just leave it there then. Thank you very much to both of you, and I'm sure I'll probably talk to you this afternoon, Jess, in chat, and I'll talk to you probably, John T, at some point later today, and if not, definitely in the tomorrow for the Chain Bear thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much for coming along, everyone.
Yeah,
Always.
see you, Sean.
Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you to everyone in chat as well. Thank you. I'm hoping my headache goes away as well. I think it is just staring at the screen all day. Well, 3 screens all day. So yeah, I'm going to go lie down for half an hour and hopefully it'll disappear. Live again from about 1:30. Again, might be a couple minutes late, might be a couple minutes early, but around 1:30, I'll be joined by Al Das. Out of the Das, or something like that. We'll come up with a better name. I might just use the full thing. But yeah, I'm just going to disappear. I really, really am. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in about an hour and a half. Bye-bye.